No.
Welcome to the My Haunt Life podcast.
Hello and welcome to the My Haunt Life podcast. I'm Mike.
And I'm Russell.
It's funny when there's a lot of stuff happening in between podcasts because it seems like it's been forever.
Yes, it does.
Since we recorded.
And it really wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, it was only a couple weeks, but I mean, you had a trip, like we did some escape rooms, you saw some shows.
Yep.
So let's start with the escape room because I think that's the first thing we did after our last podcast.
Yeah, I believe so.
So we went to 60 Out escape rooms on Melrose, and we did 2 rooms. We did Grandma's Masterplan and The Hangover. And what did you think overall?
There was a lot to like here, definitely. And 60 Out is, in the Los Angeles area, 60 Out is an escape room company that has multiple locations. And if you look at their other locations, they have different themed rooms at different locations. We did Grandma's Master Plan first, Mike. And I will say that room was a mixed bag for me, but one of the really nice things, it's a room that it's like an onion. It just layer after layer after layer. Every time I thought we had reached the end, we hadn't.
Right. And we were in there for what seemed forever, and I didn't know this going in, but it has a 75-minute time limit instead of the usual 60 minutes. Mm-hmm. So maybe they should change their name to 75 Out. Just kidding.
But no, that's actually one of the cool things about both of the rooms was the fact that they did reveal stuff. It's not just a single room. You do go from place to place once you start to figure stuff out. And the fact that it kept revealing something after something after something. I loved that about the first room.
Yeah. And you said it was a mixed bag for you. It was a mixed bag for me for kind of the same reasons. But also some of the puzzles.
Yes.
There were some really, really good and clever puzzles in here. But one of the cool things, and also for me, like one of the not so good things is that everything is automatic.
Yes.
So if there's I don't think there were any traditional locks in like we usually see in escape room. Like you have to unlock this box with, you have to find this key.
Oh, that's interesting. You know what? I actually had, toward the end, there were a couple of key locks. Right. But you're right in the fact that the puzzles didn't give you a key or give you a combination to something necessarily.
Yeah, which is cool. You're thinking outside the box, and, for escape rooms, that's what you have to do. But it worries me when you have to rely on technology because technology fails a lot.
And actually there was a bit of a failure in that room for us.
For me.
Yes, exactly.
And that, and we'll get to that later.
One of the things also you're talking about the puzzles, and I had a discussion with a couple of people afterwards who've done this room and a couple of other 60 Out escape rooms, and there's a mixed, I think, reaction to this. The design of the puzzles, Mike, it's sort of a linear room in the fact that you have to figure one thing out, and even if you have multiple puzzles going on at the same time, they lead you all as a group into the next section, into the next clue. So when you have that linear structure, the physical layout of some of these puzzles, I found funneled all of us to work on one puzzle at the same time.
Yeah. That was one of the things in the very first room. There was a little bit more opportunity to work on different things.
Yes.
But as soon as you solve a couple puzzles and there's only a couple left, everyone converges on those last remaining puzzles. And for us, they were right next to each other. So we were on top of one another and, getting frustrated. Like, okay, someone else try because this person's not doing it. And,
And actually, I can give a very specific example. There is a puzzle which is locked down in this escape room, and it is located against a wall on a flat table surface. So literally only one person at a time can really work on that puzzle. And I found it frustrating of I couldn't even see, because, I'm kind of a visual guy when it comes to stuff like that. And I didn't end up solving that. I think you ended up solving that in the end.
Yeah.
But, it's just I just wanted the chance. And we almost were in a single file line at one point because the other puzzle had sort of gotten solved, I believe. And
the other puzzle wasn't solved yet, and
Oh.
we couldn't solve it because people were lining up.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
To try to solve that puzzle.
Yeah. Yeah, it was blocking the eye lines, basically. And there were a couple of times in both of these rooms where I felt like we were all ganging up on a puzzle because it was the one thing we had to concentrate on.
Yeah, and when that was happening, I mean, I think you joked about it, but I just went and just like stood against the wall. I was like, there's nothing I can do.
Yeah, at one point, and another person who was in the room with us said the same thing. Like, at one point, I just sat down.
Yeah.
Because like there were too many people in one, like 3-foot square area trying to solve a puzzle, and like you just back away and you're like, okay, I'm useless right now. There's too many cooks in this kitchen, it's just that's a design thing, that's a flow thing. However, I will say that I enjoyed the puzzles.
Yeah.
60 Out, I think among escape room fans here in Los Angeles has a reputation for a variety of puzzles. And man, the thing that I would like to point to that I enjoyed, even though it frustrated the hell out of us.
What?
The audio puzzle.
Oh yeah.
And here's one of the reasons I said it was a mixed bag. The audio puzzle we actually had to ask for help with because literally we didn't understand some of the mechanics of the room. When you were talking about relying on technology for every puzzle, like there is no explanation as to how that necessarily functions. And it is where you're dealing with, you have to queue up audio tracks basically on several devices simultaneously. And is that too much of a spoiler? Jeez.
Kinda.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. But no, I mean, once you get into that room, I think that's what it says. So,
but yeah, it's like once you get into the room, you get that. But the mechanics of operating the technology wasn't clear, and we spent so much time trying to figure out what to do that eventually the guy giving the clues chimed in and went, "Here, let me explain some things to you." And that seems like an odd hiccup.
Mm-hmm.
But really, really like that puzzle. I thought that puzzle was really, really cool. It was frustrating as hell because we didn't get how to get there without having to be coached how to get there.
Yeah.
So, but I really, really liked that. And again, this is a room in the Hangover room, which we'll talk about in a second. There's another really unique puzzle, which we've sort of encountered in a different variation. But I like the fact that they really do think it's not just about looking at a piece of paper or looking at a series of numbers. There's physical tasks involved. There's physical activity that you have to do to get a solution. There's things you have to rearrange and put back together. So all of that is a plus. So would you recommend this room to other people?
Based on my personal experience, probably not.
Okay. I mean, I know we don't want to give spoilers, but be more specific.
Well, okay, so we talked about this on a couple podcasts ago, and I'm saying this more as like background. This isn't what happened, and I'll explain that. But when you do something in an escape room, because we love escape rooms, we go to tons, and when you get accused of doing something that's against the rules, without getting the benefit of the doubt, it really puts a damper on it. So we talked about that once when someone solved the puzzle a different way and they came over the radio and was like, "Oh, you cheated. That's not how it's supposed to be solved." And it's like, yeah, but I found a different way. One of our friends did that. And what happened with me is we went into a room and it was supposed to be sealed by a magnetic lock. And this is going back to the everything is technology based. Well, that malfunctioned, and I was able to open it. I didn't force it open. I didn't brute force it open. I just opened it. It was a cabinet that was opened.
Dude, I was right behind you. You didn't have time to force it open. We walked into the room. You walked over to that thing, and it opened. Yeah,
and as soon as I did that, the game master came over. It's like, don't brute force open anything, you're not ready for that yet. That'll open like
wait, because I had to go into the other room because there was a lot of noise going on at the time, and in the other room he said something along the lines of, you don't have what you need yet for those clues. You forced that open and you weren't supposed to.
Right.
And that's BS.
Yeah, and that's when I was like, no, I didn't. And like at that point, like I was kind of over it. I was done because I was pissed because that's not me.
It actually did affect the group overall, I don't know if the couple of people who were working on the audio clue that I just referenced caught exactly what was going on, but at least 3 of us did, and thought like, well, that's bogus.
Yeah, but for me personally, okay,
it's insulting.
Well, it's insulting, but what makes it even worse, and when you do something like that, after we finished the room, the game master went back in. He's like, "Oh, well, I'm gonna go check it," and he's like,
"No, he didn't." No. I literally said to him, "Hey, look, we're experienced enough that if that malfunctioned, you should go check that lock because we would not force it. And I guarantee you this guy," and I pointed at you, "would not force a door open in an escape room."
Oh, okay.
That's how that began.
So he went and came back. He's like, "Oh, yeah, the magnet's just spinning. It's malfunctioned." And that was it. Like, no apology, no like, "Oh, sorry, I blamed you guys," like nothing. And like stuff like that goes a long way with me. Yeah. And the fact that didn't happen, like, I wanted to leave at that point, even though we had another room to do.
Yeah, I totally understand. It was disrespectful.
Yeah. Like, like I understand you're doing your job, but to just come on and be like, "You did this, you did that," like, no, like, what, like, customer service, man. Like, be like, "Hey, that isn't supposed to open yet. By any chance, did you pull that open?" That if he said that, everything's averted. It's like, right. No, it just opened freely. And then it's like, okay, I'll need to check it out. Instead of, "You forced that open. You don't do that yet." Which
is like, definitely where he went.
Yeah. So, whatever.
Okay. I personally, to go back to the recommendation question, I would recommend this room to people because of the variety of puzzles. I understand, and I agree with you. It did bum us out that like, wait a minute, we just got accused of something we didn't do. But I would recommend this room for the reason that it is so many cool different things that you have to do. And like I said, there's physical tasks, there's audio stuff, there's some really creative puzzles in here, but I think the flow could be improved somehow, literally by just simply rearranging or placing a puzzle in a different place.
Yeah.
So, but I would recommend this room to people.
Yeah, and I did like the puzzles.
Yes.
To your point, like, there are a bunch of different puzzles that we've never seen before. So, I mean, that part of it was cool, is experiencing those new things.
Yeah, there's a middle room in particular that has a lot of physical stuff going on that I thought was kind of cool. So we finished up Grandma's Master Plan, and right after that, we went into another one of their rooms at the Melrose location, which is the Hangover room, which a friend of mine has done this room, and he said what I have the urge to say right now. He said, "Well, it's an escape room. It's called the Hangover room, but it's not what you think." And I literally want to say that right now. It's called the Hangover room, but it's not what comes to mind when you think of that.
Right.
That's just part of the story. How do you feel about this room, Mike?
I liked it. It was more, I feel like it was more streamlined.
Yes.
And there were themes of the room that I'm really into, like, personally. So once we saw those themes, I thought that was really cool. It was going in that direction.
Yeah, you're being very obtuse, but I
kind of have to be, though.
Yeah. I will say again, interesting audio stuff in this room going on. The opening set, actually, for this entire sequence, this room, I think, was a beautiful set.
Definitely.
And this is one of those rooms where you walk in and you absolutely feel like you are in a real working environment. Being that the name of the room is called The Hangover, you might figure that you walk into a bar. And it has the look, the feel, the vibe of a small, intimate lounge or bar area. And the set is so good. And they do a fairly good job of incorporating pieces of the set into what you need to solve to progress through the story. So the story of that particular room, we didn't really cover Grandma's Master Plan story-wise, and I'm just going to say that the story for that one, I don't know, it wasn't very logical to me, but I enjoyed it because of all the different rooms that we had to go through.
Right.
But The Hangover, I think the story worked better, fitting with the theme of the rooms.
I totally agree.
And so you solve a whole bunch of stuff in a bar, and then you end up in a situation where you have to figure out some stuff behind the scenes, behind the business side of the bar. And that's kind of interesting. There's a couple of cool things involving having to contact people or deal with people who may not necessarily be in the room with you, which I thought was really enjoyable. And also there's, I don't want to give it away, but there's a physical clue in the last area of this room that we've had a really difficult time with.
Yeah, and for some reason I feel like we had the right combination the whole time. Because then how, because we did have to ask for clarification on that.
Yeah, we asked for clarification because it's a multiple choice answer, and you have to choose several different things. So you come up with, you have to list, I believe it was 4 items, and the 4 items are the correct answer. And when he called in, and we said, look, we're having a problem with this puzzle, he said, well, tell me your 4 answers, and we listed the 4 correct answers.
Yeah, and then it worked, and so that just makes me go back to the technology. Like, was something malfunctioning, and then finally he realized we had it, and he overrode it. Like, it was one of those things,
Yeah, but I will say it took us a while to figure it out because that was one of those situations where I was working on something else elsewhere in the room, and again, there was some stuff with the set in this room where you have to interact with the set, which I thought was kind of, dare I say, cute.
Oh, jeez.
And if you've done this room or if you encounter this room, you might figure out there's stuff hanging on the walls that you have to interact, which I just thought was hysterically funny. But when you got to that sequence we had to get clarification for, I know we didn't have the correct answer for quite some time, but then we all worked together as a group. Everybody double-checked each other's answers, and we came up with the 4 answers, but it still didn't work.
Yeah.
So that was kind of confusing. And again, it was this weird thing where there was a piece in The Hangover where we did something that was completely logical, and the game master came over and went, hey guys, you don't need to be doing that right now. And it was like, it seemed logical because I don't think this is a spoiler at all. You open a space.
Yeah. And
then you're not supposed to enter the space.
Right.
And as soon as we opened the space, every one of us was like, okay, well, how do we get in there? How do we get
Exactly.
And that was an odd hiccup for me because it was like, what? Now what? But the answer lied in the story of what exactly was supposed to be accomplished. And we did figure it out very, very quickly. But the fact that he did have to call us like, wait, no, yeah, you opened it, but...
Wait a minute. We figured it out very quickly. I remember suggesting what the solve of the puzzle was, and you were like, no!
Wait, are you talking about the... Oh.
You're like, no, it's not that.
Wow, I just met Pantomime Mike for the first time.
Well, I can't say it because it's a huge...
Could you give it to me again in interpretive dance?
It's the grand finale of this room. I'm not going to verbally say it.
So that's a good point. Oh, that's not what I was referring to.
Oh, okay.
I was referring to how you get that information.
But you admit that happened.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Me admit that I missed something completely in an escape room? Yes, I admit that happens. And I also admit that you love pointing it out.
Yes. It makes for a good podcast.
So, and actually I got to admit it's kind of humorous usually when you point it out because you're usually right. So what I'm referring to is I thought the clue of how you get the instructions to finish this room was kind of cool.
Oh, definitely.
And it is one of those wonderful things where you're carrying around something in an escape room like, I know I need this. And then finally at the last moment you go like, oh, now I get it. And you have to put certain things together. But I enjoyed The Hangover, I think, a little bit more than Grandma's Master Plan. How do you feel?
Same here.
Okay, cool. 60 Out is a company that I want to do other rooms with them, Mike. Even though, like I said, we've discussed hiccups, a little bit of a customer service thing, but this is a company that I definitely want to go explore more rooms with. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I had that issue and it kind of soured me on that night, but I would be open to going back again, like if there was another room that we heard was really good. And
they have some very interesting themes. I recommend you going to the 60 Out website and look at all of their themes. They have a wide variety of themes for their escape rooms. And like I said, multiple locations.
For more information to find these rooms, find them on the web at 60out.com, and that's 60 with a 60. On Facebook, 60 Out Escape Rooms, Instagram, 60 Out Escape Rooms, and on Twitter, 60 Out Escape Room. Now, you took a trip.
Yes, I did.
Fiend. Where'd you go?
I went to Las Vegas. We have a mutual friend, Omar, who lives in Las Vegas, and Omar had called me and said that the show that a theater was doing a show that he knew I would be interested in. So I just decided to go and take in a show and hang out with Omar and eat good food. So that was the purpose of the weekend. Actually, Omar and I took in 2 shows, and definitely want to mention one of them because it's kind of cool and unique, and it's similar to something you and I have done locally, Mike.
But hold on. Usually when we go to Vegas, we go for one main reason.
Yes.
And that's Freakling Brothers.
Yes.
So please tell me that there's some sort of Freakling Brothers connection with this trip.
Of course there's a Freakling Brothers connection with this trip. If you are a Extreme Haunt follower, you might have heard a rumor, you might have heard an inkling that Freakling Brothers in Vegas is going to bring back the victim experience this year. And I was able to spend some time with Warren, who is now Director of Operations for Freakling Brothers. Warren is the gentleman who used to be Scorch the Clown when there was a circus-themed haunt with Freakling Brothers. And Warren was so cool. Warren agreed to come out, and we chatted for a while. Omar, he and I hung out for a little while, and I was able to get a quick interview with him, Mike.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, this is really cool, and I really, really appreciate Warren taking the time to do this. The information for Freakling Brothers Victim Experience is coming probably toward the end of this month. So Freakling Brothers, at the time of this interview, they weren't quite ready to release specific information. So we're going to be a little vague in the interview with specific details, but Warren does hint at what's coming up for Victim Experience and the fact that it is a very special year for Freakling Brothers, and we cover that in the interview. And there's also a bit of a casual vibe because, Mike, this is one of the first times I've ever had the chance to talk to Warren out of character.
Okay.
And I found it really, really interesting. And so I know in this interview, I think I have a little bit of a fanboy vibe going on. I was nervous. I was a little intimidated, and it's weird. I realized a few minutes into talking to him on the record as I was recording, I was like, why do I feel so nervous?
Because it's Warren, and chances are there was probably going to be someone coming up behind you with a bag.
So I really did. But he's such a kind and generous soul. He really is. And I really appreciate Warren sitting down, and definitely we cover some main topics with Freakling Brothers and the Victim Experience, and let's just go ahead and get into it. So here's the interview with Warren from Freakling Brothers in Las Vegas. Hello everyone, I'm sitting here with Warren, who is the Director of Operations for Freakling Bros Horror Shows. If you're a regular listener to this podcast, you know that Mike and I have a great deal of affection for the Freakling Brothers. They create 3 of the best top-notch haunts. You will often find them on the best of lists for this country and sometimes around the world. Warren, thank you so much for taking some time to talk with me.
Thank you for having me.
So, Warren, you and I have encountered each other on and off for the past, 4
Numerous
years?
times. Numerous.
The reason that Mike and I wanted to get in touch with you is this is a very special year for the Freakling Bros, right?
Yes, it is. It's our 25th anniversary.
How long have you been with the Freakling Brothers?
This will be my 10th season, I believe.
And many people know you as Scorch the Clown.
Unfortunately, yes.
Who are you this year? Because Scorch kind of retired.
Scorch actually disappeared 2 years ago when we opened the Coven of 13. Mm-hmm. Without having a Circus of Horrors, there was no need to have a clown.
So will you be, if I may ask, appearing this season as a performer?
No, I won't.
Okay.
My duties are now exclusively show-related, non-performing, and that's honestly what I prefer right now. Plus, I was very close to the end of my performing days anyways.
Now, Warren, there are 3 shows that the Freakling Brothers put up every year in Vegas. And 2 of them are the regular haunt, really
As
well
regular
done.
as you can get.
And then you have something called the Gates of Hell. So let's go over the names.
We have Castle Vampire, which if you were to assign a movie rating to it, in my opinion, it would be a PG.
Okay.
We have the Coven of 13,
Yes.
which is an intense house. I would give it a strong PG-13 rating. And then we have Nevada's first and only R-rated attraction, the Gates of Hell. Mm-hmm. And that is a hard R. I personally would say it's an NC-17 show, but we advertise it as an R.
Well, there's definitely adult content,
There's
which I think leans toward
definitely-
NC-17.
Definitely some adult content, and there's definitely touching. You will be touched. This is not a disclosure of any type. This is on the contract you must sign before you enter the Gates of Hell. You will be touched. You will be sworn at. There is a lot of physical discomfort. It's not pleasurable.
I can attest to that. But it's a blast.
It's great fun.
Yeah, and I want to compliment you guys. Mike and I have definitely talked about this on the podcast in the past. All 3 shows, truly some of the most clever scares, truly frightening moments. You guys are top notch, and I think it comes from the years of experience, obviously. But like, you guys really are extremely creative with your scares, and we love coming back every year and see the little tweaks that you've made to the shows.
Oh, thank you. One of the things we pride ourselves on is the originality. You're not ever going to hear a chainsaw Freakling Brothers. You're not going to see any trademarked or popular, well-known character in any of Freakling. It's all original, and it's all based on what we know after 25 years that fans want.
Well, speaking of, you at Freakling Brothers have an event called the Victim Experience.
Rumored, yes.
Which is apparently, rumor has it, returning this year.
Yes, it is.
Now, it sounds like there's been some major changes. Can you tease us with some information about that? Because I know you're not allowed to release everything quite yet.
Not a lot of spoilers. I will tell you that tickets do go on sale at the end of this month.
Which is the end of April.
At the end of April. It is going to be a slightly increased ticket price. There's going to be a lot that we're adding to a package, though, for that. More details on that soon.
So you're not just talking about the show itself, you're talking about extras
There
to go along
are
with
going to
that.
be a lot of extras added to the Victim Experience this year. Guaranteed everybody that attempts it will be getting at least 2 items to take home. And they'll be different whether or not you survive the Victim Experience or if you fail Victim Experience. You will still be leaving with at least 2 personal reminders of your experience.
Mike and I have both done the Victim Experience. We have both survived the Victim Experience twice and made it all the way through. I will be the first to admit that I also tried it a 3rd time and ran into a little bit of trouble.
You were warned earlier that night that you weren't going to make it.
Yeah, there was a character who did warn me of that, perhaps. So
He also apologized for it, but he knew.
I learned an important lesson about extreme haunting that night, and I have to give credit to you guys in allowing me to decompress afterwards. And we talked about what happened in the show. And this really is sort of like an extreme sport for some people. And
Right.
You're right, I wasn't in the right frame of mind, and I should have walked away. Except I got greedy because it was the only time window I had.
Right. A good example of that is we have one of our show techs, Corn Dog, actually races motocross. Mm-hmm. And he knows he's not going to win every race that he participates in.
Right.
But he's also raced in some races he knows he should have not raced in. It's an unfortunate thing, but I understand the time is there. You've got to optimize or do what you can at that time. You got to give it a shot.
Right.
But it was obvious to at least one person that you weren't going to make it that night.
One of the reasons I kind of digress there is the Victim Experience is not for everyone. The victim experience.
It's not for anyone.
It's an extreme haunt. It's the most extreme thing I've ever attempted, and I'm Mike and I have talked about this off the record. I think we're both very proud of the fact that we were able to both do it successfully twice. So I have to take a dig at Mike now and mention that I did it before him. So,
well, for a few bucks under the table, we can make sure Mike doesn't make it this year, and you do.
I mean, really?
No, we would never do that. One of the things that we pride ourselves on is everybody gets within 2 minutes and within a very, very close proximity. I'd say 95% of the actor's performance, everybody gets the exact same show all the way through.
Right. Which I know you strive for. So let's talk a little bit about, you said that it's going to be an upgraded ticket price, but you get more of a package deal with this. There will be some goodies for people along the way.
There will be goodies, plus instead of the victim experience lasting, whether or not you say purgatory or you make it all the way through, 45 minutes tops, it's now going to add approximately 100 days to that.
What do you mean by that?
There will be a private place for those that have purchased their victim experience tickets to experience an additional 100 days of hell. I won't go into that, but other than to say that for 100 days leading up to your spot of victim experience, there will be something happening each one of those days that will affect you in some way.
So it sounds like there might be some social media interaction or something along those lines?
There will be a private group, be it a private website or something, that will be in a confidentiality agreement that only those that have paid their victim experience ticket will be a part of, and it will have non-disclosure on it as well.
Interesting.
There will be hints, messages, and some teasers on it, and it will be updated at least once every day.
Okay, so I'm going to ask the question where this is where you say I'm not going to answer the question. Can you talk to us a little bit about changes to the event? Because the victim experience does evolve, and with your anniversary this year coming up, and victim experience returning after a year being dark, what can you tell us about changes to the victim experience?
What I can tell you is victim experience was designed from the very beginning to take no more than 30-35 minutes. This year, it may be 40-45 minutes, but what that's going to allow us to do is shorten the length of time it takes for us to get the next victim into the show. As you know, in the past, we wait until the first person in is at least 2/3 of the way through the show before we send in the next victim. The changes we've made this year allow us to do that much faster. Instead of waiting until they're 2/3 of the way through the show, we don't even have to wait until they're halfway through the show before we can send in the next victim, which is going to cut about a 2-hour experience, depending on what number you're sent into the house, to a much shorter time.
So you're moving people through more efficiently.
They're going to be moved more efficiently. We're still going to do maximum 5 a night, but the reason this change is needed, we'd rather have the show be 5 to 10 minutes longer, but to be able to get people through it faster, which will actually make a night shorter for the rest of the cast.
Right, which I know this show takes a toll on the cast.
What a lot of people don't realize is the cast that does victim experience is made up of casts from all 3 shows. And it's veterans. They are going several hours past their regular time of being there, and they've already done a regular haunt for 8 hours. It takes a huge toll on us. To have the show be a little bit longer, but to be able to pace people through it at a better speed is going to help everybody out.
So it sounds like there are going to be some changes in the scenes. It sounds like the show's going to be a little bit longer. Every year you seem to have added either a major, I don't know what you would call it, tentpole sequence perhaps, or have you got something up your sleeve which...
This year Not just Victim, but all three shows. As you know, we make a change
Yes.
every year. This year there is at least one huge, major change to Victim experience that is beyond what anybody's ever done before.
I'm so intrigued. And I know you're not going to tell me anything.
No, I'm not.
Okay. So the Victim Experience tickets will go on sale at the end of April. How many tickets will go on sale?
I believe this year we are not going to do any more than 35 ticket sales for Victim Experience. I believe we're going to spread it out over 7 nights, 5 people a night for 7 nights. Tentatively, this is not written in stone yet, but tentatively, our dates are going to be Friday, October 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th, which is a Friday through Tuesday.
Okay.
And then the next weekend, October 21st and 22nd, which are Saturday and Sunday. There is a rumor that if you don't get your tickets in time, that we may possibly be allowing one walk-on per night. And that would be up to Freakling Brothers' discretion or not. But we're going to strictly limit it. It's going to be a very exclusive event. And at the very max, it looks like 5 a night with a possible add-on of 1.
As someone who's done the Victim Experience, I can say that for people listening to this who don't understand why, like, this show is extremely taxing on the patron and extremely emotionally taxing, I'm sure, on the cast. That's why there's so many limited tickets. You also, I think we should mention and make it clear that what happens with the Victim Experience is it's actually the end of your night.
Yeah.
And you close the other shows down
We
before
wait until
this.
all other patrons are off the lot.
So
The
you
only
start
people-
late.
Yeah, we start very late. The only people allowed on the lot are cast members from other shows, and we have a very strict rule that they have to sit at least 50 feet away, and they're not to make any loud sounds or anything like that. They're to strictly watch. And if a person doing the Victim Experience brings 1 or 2 people for support for them, they're set with the cast members at least 50 feet away. We want it to be as exclusively, as much as possible, the victims and us.
I can say that that meant a lot in the fact that that support system is in place. The fact that the cast was so supportive and really wanted everyone to succeed. That's very clear.
We want everybody that attempts Victim Experience to make it through the entire show. There's a lot of stuff that happens in the show. However, we know it's just not possible. Everybody's got a breaking point. We really wish everybody could see the show through the entire way. It's just not possible.
Yeah, and I think you're asking for some extreme physical interaction from your patrons. That's part of what the Victim Experience is. However, one thing that this is not is pointless torture. It's not that.
Right. It
I
was
think
never intended to be that.
I've never gotten that impression. As a matter of fact, the first time I went through, I was surprised at how story-based it was. And the fact that you were going through these extreme sequences, and at the end of it, there was this reveal that made you, at least made me, extremely reflective on the experience.
That's good to hear, because you're the one person that's told me that you understood the storyline. So
Oh, come on.
that's
Really?
That's one of the changes that we're making, is we want the story to be a little bit more coherent to those doing it, which is kind of hard to do, being there's not a lot of people that do extreme haunts.
Right.
And those that are trying it for the first time could really care less about any storyline after their first 5 minutes in the show.
Well, the first 5 minutes is pretty terrifying.
They're just wanting to, to make it as far as they can, and all story points are lost by then. So a more coherent story is what we want to shoot for.
Oh,
but
interesting.
I'm glad that you did get the story.
Oh, yeah, absolutely I did. It was, I actually wrote you guys a letter after my first time through. It took me several days to process. I don't know if you remember that letter.
I remember the letter, yes.
And it just it had such a positive effect on me. It was a horrifying experience. It truly was. And yet I walked away with a very philosophical approach to what I had attempted and what I had achieved. So I find that very interesting that you can do that with such a physically extreme event.
Well, thank you.
And I did tell you at the time, and JT and Duke and the rest of the Freakling family, I wanted it to be known that I think it would be really easy to dismiss the victim experience as exploitative or sensationalizing the idea of a haunt. And I think you guys have got more going on than that.
Once again, with this being Freakling Brothers' 25th anniversary, it's not our first rodeo.
Yes.
We get it, and there's been a lot of trial and error over the years, but Freakling Brothers honestly gets it. It's not, victim experience is not an endurance thing that you try to accomplish. It's an entertainment, albeit not an entertainment for everybody, but it's, oddly enough, still supposed to be enjoyable in a sense, if that makes any sense to you at all.
It does to me. I because I've done other extreme events, and I do find there to be an entertainment factor, but it's not pleasant at times when you're going through it.
What I would like to liken the whole thing to, all of Freakling Brothers to, is, let's say it's an amusement park. Everybody loves going to Disneyland, but I'm not going to take my 4-year-old on Big Thunder Mountain.
Right.
They'll ride Pirates of the Caribbean all day. Great. When it comes to Splash Mountain, they're like, no way. I like to think of Freakling Brothers the same way. We've got the regular haunts, and then we do have a little bit more intense for the hardcore fans. The ones that we love the most, we do a little bit extra for, and that's victim experience.
I think what you said a minute ago is true. I think Freakling Brothers gets it. I think you guys have a connection with your fans. You have a huge fan base. That's very clear. Congratulations on all the lists you have made, claiming that you're some of the best haunts in the world. Mike and I have been recommending you guys for the last few years to everyone.
We listen to My Haunt Life. Yes, we know.
Well, we love you guys, and I was lucky enough to a friend of ours, a mutual friend, Omar. The way I got pulled into this originally was he called me and he said, "There's this new thing. I just got us 2 tickets, and you're coming." And when I started doing some research, I became terrified. But I'm so glad that I did it and made it, because it's truly one of the things in my haunting life, if I can say that I'm really, really proud of and happy.
I will tell you this much. I believe you and Omar were the first 2 to ever go through victim experience.
Yes, we were.
And you both made it.
Yes.
Which we took a real quick break after the second one of you came out, and we're like, wait a second, we might not have made this intense enough.
Oh, it's plenty intense.
However, you were the only 2 that made it that night. The others that were in line, I believe, failed.
There was one woman.
There was one woman that did make it. You're right. However, those were seriously squashed afterwards. Those concerns of ours were squashed afterwards. When we heard you guys talking about it afterwards, and we're like, okay, these are the exception to the rule. They're the ones that seek this out and do this. They were at least somewhat prepared.
Yeah, we were.
So we realized that we had the recipe right off the bat.
Yeah.
Our 2 anomalies were the first 2 that we had go through. It would have been great for us to have the first person go running out screaming, and everybody else in line to say, "Oh, screw that, we're not going to do it." As it turned out, it was actually better because we got the feedback from you guys that we needed to know that we were doing it right.
Oh yeah, it's quite a unique event. Seriously, wish you well with this season. Congratulations on the anniversary.
Thank you very much.
I'm so looking forward to. That Mike and I will be visiting you sometime in Vegas this year.
Well, you better, because if not, we know where you live and we'll come and get you.
Unfortunately, I know that's true. Thank you so much for sitting down and talking to me. I really appreciate it, Warren. Good luck with the season, and everyone who's listening to this interview, please keep an eye on the Victim Experience website, which, would you please give me the social media information?
You can go to Freakling Brothers Horror Shows on Facebook. You could go freaklingbros.com for our website, and both of those will have all the information you need. Rumor is if there is anything to do with victim experience, victimexperience.com. It's a very basic, very Non-disclosure filled, just basic holding site, but it gives you information that you need. We try not to let a lot of info from victim out. It's one of those things that's got to stay fresh, but there's ways to find out about us, and if you're creative enough, you can get it.
Well, also that website, I believe you're talking about the website that sort of tells you what you might encounter in the dark?
What might happen. It's a very basic, broad guideline, but it gives you information that you'll need for tickets or for if you absolutely must know more.
Well, I will say this as someone who's done the victim experience a couple of times. I would recommend people pay very close attention to that webpage.
I would recommend people try to go in with a blank slate and not know anything about it, to tell you the truth.
Okay, we can agree to disagree on that one.
I just think it might be a little bit easier to get through if you don't know.
Oh, I will say this. I think that's one of the reasons I was able to make it the first time.
Yeah.
I did have this horrifying moment in the middle of my first time through where I just had the realization of, this is really horrible, but I know they can't kill me, so that's the good news.
On purpose, we can't kill you. Accidents happen.
I think we should end it there. Or thank you so much for talking with us.
Thank you, Russell.
All right, take care.
That's awesome. First off, thank you, Warren, for taking the time to deal with Russell, because
Yes.
I mean that's a feat all on its own. But thank you for talking to him and giving us this information. Russell, I mean, you and I have done the victim experience twice successfully, and we're the only two people that have done it. And we're going to just keep milking that until
Yes, we are.
Because probably this year there's probably going to be someone that's done it, and then there'll be a three-way tie.
Yes.
Unless we do it and go for a third. But with that being said, how do you feel this year?
I'm very nervous. I'm not committing to doing it.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like as much as I want to do it and, go for that third time, it's like it would be for the wrong reasons, I think, for me.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because it would be just to get a scorecard in a way, and because we've done it. We've done it twice. We're the only people that have done it twice. And it's one of those things where it's like, do we really have anything left to prove within the victim experience?
No, I don't think either of us have anything left to prove. I don't think we have anything left to prove after the first time. My second time through, I chose to do it. And you and I have talked about the victim experience past on the podcast. We've written about it on the website. It was a really interesting mental process going back for me. And then I did attempt it a third time, and I needed to call safety halfway through because of something that kind of, it didn't go wrong, but something became more overwhelming more quickly than it probably should have. And so I needed to get out. And it's funny because Warren and I spoke about that briefly. And here's the thing. I know I would get something out of it, but like you said, I have nothing to prove. And here's the thing for me, I don't know how you feel, Mike, but I don't know what I would get out of it emotionally.
Right.
And it is as well as being a heavy physical toll, because it is a really physically challenging event. Emotionally, I'm not sure what I would get out of it.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because the first time I did it and I made it, I came out and I was on the verge of tears because of just everything you hear about it, the build up, and the fact that you finally do it. There's you just want to explode with emotions. And then when I did it the second time, I didn't have that feeling. I came out of it and was like, I did it again. Cool. And that was it. It didn't have that same emotional impact as the first time.
Oh, that's interesting, because it did have quite an emotional impact my second time as well. And there was something about the second time, and they take care of you so well.
Definitely.
And I think the staff kind of realized I was at a really vulnerable place after my second time, and Duke came over and wrapped me in a towel and made sure that I was okay. And he led me over and he sat me down. And I just sort of, I don't know, pondered about the fact that, and this is what I got out of it, and you know, I don't want to digress too heavily into this because I'll get very emotional, but I have a strength in me that I'm not always aware of. You know, and I think that's one reason I was so happy when you did the victim experience was I didn't know if you saw in yourself certain strengths.
Right.
That I see as your friend. Wow, we're getting heavy.
Yeah, this is getting weird.
So I respect you, man.
Stop.
So so at the end of it, and the funny thing for me, and I know, Mike, I've told you this, was I was like sitting there kind of recuperating my second time through, and behind me I heard one of the staff members say, "That guy right there, balls of steel."
Oh my God.
I was just like, oh, wait a minute. Like, yeah, I'm proud of this, and in certain circles there is a respect that I have earned by doing it and succeeding at it, and I don't need to go back. But you know I'm tempted.
Of course, you have a chip on your shoulder.
No, I don't know if that's it.
Yes, you do. And I'm not saying that, I'm not saying this in a negative thing, but like the fact that you called safety, like it's in who you are to go back and like kick the crap out of that part.
A little bit, yeah. A little bit. So yeah, I'll admit to that. Okay. But doesn't mean I'm going to do it.
Right.
I could live with not doing it again, ever. So anyway, thank you again, Warren, for sitting down and chatting. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, and we'll see you in 6 months.
Oh, yeah, because definitely with the anniversary coming up, definitely we will be in Vegas at some point for the Freakling Brothers. Recommend them to everyone who likes haunts.
Yeah, and for more information on the Freakling Brothers, you can find them on the web at freaklingbros.com, on Facebook, Freakling Bros, on Instagram and Twitter, also Freakling Bros. And for the victim experience, go to thevictimexperience.com. But don't do it at work, just in case. So after the interview and stuff, what else did you do?
Okay, I did a couple of really cool things. Like I said, Omar and I took in a couple of shows. And I want to point to something, Mike, you and I with Machine Project here in Los Angeles, which is sort of a very odd, fun, artistic collection of events that they did something where we spent an afternoon one day sort of like learning the basics of lockpicking and
yes,
like and how to get out of
and
handcuffs.
I broke into your house with those skills.
Wait, you didn't get the last lock.
Oh yeah,
that's right. You didn't get the last lock. There's a show at the Stratosphere Casino in Las Vegas called the Spy Escape and Evasion Show. And Omar had emailed me this message like, do you know anything about this? And like, it looks kind of fun. And what they've done is they've taken, there's a gentleman by the name of Jason Hansen, who is a former CIA officer, who's actually designed sort of a lecture. He runs a company that teaches professionals how to protect themselves and how to be safe. And what that guy did is he sort of designed a show which is part lecture, part interactive show. It's about an hour long, and he teaches you some basic safety stuff that you might not be aware of. And you know, the cool stuff is he does the whole thing, which you can find this information elsewhere, but the fact that it's from a former CIA officer, it's very succinct and very, very well delivered in this show. How to escape if someone were to duct tape your hands together or your feet together or duct tape you to a chair. Gives you pointers on how you would get out of that situation. He also covers zip ties. And this is information which I sort of knew the basics of.
Of course you did.
Well, I mean, I do have some magician escape artist friends that I've hung out with over the years.
Yeah, magicians.
I do. So the first half of the show is sort of audience participation where, like, I was one of the first people he called up on stage when he asked for volunteers. Of course, I volunteered. And he did the thing where he duct taped my hands together, which was very funny because he looked down and, like, you know me well enough that the first thing he did was look down at me and went, oh, nice hairy arms, good. So he duct taped, and then he taught me how to get out of the duct tape. And he covers things in the second half of the show, such as situational awareness of how we make ourselves vulnerable when we are alone and distracted by our cell phones. He talks about electronic identity theft. He talks about how to protect your wallet or your purse if you have credit cards inside. He also talks about basic home protection. And
I wish we knew this before doing the tension experience.
So he presents this in a very enjoyable and informative, presentation sort of vibe that is, you don't realize quite how much information he's imparting as he's doing it. So it's an interesting show. It's very family friendly. There were, kids of all ages, and I actually think it's useful information for kids to be aware of, in the fact that, protecting your identity, because, kids have cell phones earlier and earlier these days, how to protect your house, all of the information. And then at the very end, there is a bit of a sales pitch at the end, and you walk out into the lobby and they're selling many of the products that they talk about in the show. So, but if you're in Vegas and you want something really unique, it's family friendly, it's kind of cool, and it is information that not everybody knows. So I'm actually really, really glad we did this. And the guy behind it, Jason Hansen, like I said, he's a former CIA officer. He's been seen on Shark Tank, which is where partially this was developed, was through going on Shark Tank and wanting to get this information out to the general public to help people protect themselves.
How much was the ticket?
We did a Groupon, actually. So I believe it was we did a VIP seating, which was closer to the stage, and it was $40 or less per person.
Okay.
So it's very affordable. You can get Groupons that are even less than that, and the auditorium is small enough that there is no bad seat in this house. I would recommend it if this type of information interests you. And it's a really short show. Quite often there's 5 p.m. matinees, so it's really easy to fit into your schedule if you're hanging out in Vegas. And I'm sure during the hotter months in Vegas, it'll be great to go into an air-conditioned theater in the middle of the afternoon. So
so you can go to that, learn how to get out of it, and then when you get drunk and stumble down a random street off of Fremont,
get kidnapped.
You know how to get out.
That's right. If you'd like more information on this show, go to stratospherehotel.com, and it's called the Spy, Escape, and Evasion Show, and it is listed there on their entertainment section of their website. The other social media stuff I looked up, Mike, doesn't reference the show specific. It just references the general Stratosphere Hotel. So if you go to the Stratosphere Hotel website, do a search for Spy, Escape, and Evasion Show. Okay, Mike, I got a story for you.
Okay.
So after the show, Omar has run into a friend at the casino. His name is Troy. He actually works with some of the entertainment venues in casinos in Las Vegas, I guess. But he also runs a theater company in Vegas. Well, Omar and I had planned to go see the next night a show that was running at his theater.
Oh, that's cool.
So his name is Troy and Omar and I are standing there talking, and we're talking about theater. We're talking about haunts because he knows that Omar is big into haunts, and Omar says, "Oh yeah, Russell is too." And so we're having the typical get to know you, what are you interested in conversation. And suddenly Troy makes the connection. He goes, "Wait a minute. You mentioned a podcast where you talk about immersive stuff?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm part of this podcast called My Haunt Life." And he pulls out his phone and he hits a couple of buttons and he holds his phone up to me, and My Haunt Life is the first podcast on his phone.
That's awesome.
And he said, "This podcast?" And we just kind of chuckled and laughed. I said, "Yeah, actually, I'm Russell from My Haunt Life." And he was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so," I listen to your stuff because I run, and it's called the Majestic Rep Company in Las Vegas. And he is interested in immersive theater, and he is, I believe, and this is kind of why I'm sharing this on the podcast, Majestic Rep in Vegas, he's planning on doing something for Halloween. It's very much in development, and he was very, very mischievous and secretive about what that might be. But he's very interested in immersive theater, and he knows that Las Vegas doesn't have a ton of it. So I think Majestic Rep is going to be a company that, if you're in the Vegas area, I think you should keep an eye on these guys, because I think they're going to be expanding and exploring. I went and saw a show called Hand to God.
Is that the picture where you were in front of a spray-painted wall that said Satan?
Yes.
Awesome.
Because Hand to God, which Troy actually shared with me this fun little statistic. It's the most produced play in America this theater season. It was a New York hit in like 2014 to 2015, and it's the story of a teenager in a church group, and his mother is trying to wrangle some teenagers into doing a puppet show, and one of the puppets becomes this demonic, possessed version of the teenager who controls the puppet.
I like it.
It is hysterically funny. It is, and I'm mentioning it because it is being produced across America with smaller companies. The rights have gone out, if you know anything about getting rights for plays. And so the play is out there, and it's really, really funny. And I had such a good time watching this show. But I wanted to point to Majestic Repertory because it looks like they're a company that has just moved. They've moved into a new space. They've announced their new season. It's really ambitious. New work, old work, classics. They're in a kind of a storefront space right now, which they can adapt to various types of productions. Troy is someone who obviously likes immersive theater. I think he's going to be experimenting as a company with that in the future. But also I wanted to draw attention to the fact that his next production, Mike, Carrie the Musical.
Nice.
And Carrie is, if you've never seen it, it's infamous because it did such a horrible flop on Broadway when it was originally released, but it's been revamped in the last few years, and the version that is now being done across America by theater companies is a retooled version. And I'm not going to say it's a great musical, but the thing that it does capture is, like the Carrie story, it captures sort of the angst of high school pressure, social pressure. From seeing Hand to God, which was a great, great production of that show, I'm really curious, and I actually think I will be going back to Vegas to see Carrie the Musical.
Nice.
So that's my intention.
And that's even before haunt season, right?
Oh, yeah, that's May. It's the weekends in May. So if you're going to Vegas in May, if you're in the Vegas area, and I know we have some listeners in Vegas, check out majesticrepertory.com. And check out their season. Carrie, I think, will be the closing of this season. If you've never seen Carrie, it's a musical that is... It can be interpreted so many ways. I've seen it done as a small, intimate little drama. And Mike, you and I have seen a production that was big, bombastic, with people floating around on wires and being thrown through the air.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It was very cool. So it'll be interesting to see what they do in... They have a small space, but it'll be very interesting to see what they do with Carrie the Musical, and I'm really looking forward to learning more about what these guys have planned in the future. So if you're interested in that, you can check them out at majesticrepertory.com, and on Facebook they are at Majestic Rep, and on Twitter Majestic Rep, and on Instagram it's Majestic Rep Theater, and theater is spelled with the Theatre. And I just wanted to highlight that because I thought it was such a cool encounter, and Hand to God was so good, and I wish them well with the Carrie Me the Musical production.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for listening, Troy. Now, on top of the Vegas trip, you like to make me realize how much of a hermit I really am, because you went back to the Nest and did that.
Yes, I did go back to the Nest.
And how was it your second time? And the Nest, for everyone that's listening, we went to a couple weeks ago and we discussed on the last podcast, and we both loved it. Mm-hmm. So what was it like going back?
Very interesting, because I think after our first conversation about it on the podcast, I learned the lesson is this is not something. This has escape room elements, but it's a theater piece. But it's a theater piece that you learn the story by listening to cassettes.
Right.
This is all information that you're given right up front. So I went back, I took a much slower pace, and here's the interesting thing. This story develops through the audio cassettes, right?
Yeah.
We found different audio cassettes.
Oh, no way.
The story changed so drastically.
Oh, that's so cool.
I think we got 2 different tapes, and there was a tape that you and I found that Deb and I did it with Deb, and she and I didn't find that tape apparently. And so there's a character, and you're entering a storage area that belonged to a woman named Josie, who has apparently left it in her will to you. That's how you enter as an audience member. You can do this as one person, or you can do it as 2 people. So what happened when Deb and I did it is because we didn't find the one tape that you and I listened to, but we found this other one. There's a character in Josie's life that so much more unpleasant.
Oh, wow.
And there was a darker side to that relationship than you and I found from a different angle. You and I found a dark side to the relationship because of what Josie went through. What we found when I went back was that there was another person in her life that was not very kind. And that was the fascinating thing in going back. And it was more interesting to explore because we took a slower pace than when you and I did it. And I explored an area, like there was one room in particular that I didn't realize this, but every time you and I walked into that room, we wound up in the same corners. And I went, oh, wait, I never went over there. And I opened a cabinet, and there was so much stuff that you had seen, I didn't even realize I hadn't noticed. So it was really nice going back and taking a slower pace to find other stuff and learn other stuff. And I thoroughly enjoyed it both times.
That's so cool. I really, really hope they extend because I want to go back.
Yeah, I would recommend going back, definitely, because like I said, finding that additional audio tape or two really changed the story for me. It was very, very fascinating. So I highly recommend The Nest to everyone.
And for more information on The Nest, you can find that at thenestshow.com. The Nest is being put on by the Scout Expedition Company, and their info is scoutexpedition.co, on Facebook, Scout Expedition CO, on Instagram, Scout Expedition CO, and on Twitter, Scout Expedition. And we got mail.
Yes, we did.
And we're going to do something we haven't done before.
Yeah. Mainly because I got mail last night.
We're going to open it live.
Really?
We'll do it live. Open it.
Oh, look, it's a...
And you just broke every collectible in there by shaking it like that.
So
Russell is opening it right now as we speak. And you realize that's the bottom of the box, right?
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, it is.
Okay. No, it's already open.
I just
you may as
opened
well
the bottom
just go.
of the box. Okay. All right. So I'm... Okay, so what do we got? By the way, did we mention that I'm opening a box of Dread?
We did now.
Oh, cool.
It's like Christmas.
It is. Oh, this is signed?
Yeah. What is it? Since you know this is a video and all.
I'm sorry, I got wrapped up in it. It's a Hatchet comic book, Adam Green's Hatchet, signed by James Kohoric. This is really cool. It's issue number 0.
They're nailing it with the comics and like signed stuff. That's
very cool, and it has a really, really nice cover of Victor Crowley. That's really cool. That's really cool. I also look, if you're familiar with Fulci Comics, which I believe one of the earlier boxes we got a Fulci comic.
Yes.
So they have a sticker for Fulci Comics.
From Ebon Press.
And, oh, this is cool. From Aliens, we have an Ellen Ripley Funko.
Your pile is going to get bigger at work.
Yeah, my workmates are joking with me that I now am collecting Funkos slowly but surely of all the horror figures. I work with collectors, so, you know. So there's one person near me that works in their office. They literally have hundreds.
Really?
I am not exaggerating. I don't think I'll ever have that, but this is really cool. You know, Ellen Ripley, and she's got her gun. And it's from Aliens. Wow, this is really cool.
And there's one more thing. We have a poster of the Hatchet comic. It looks like that might be the cover that's not exclusive to Box of Dread.
Very, very, very cool. It's a poster of Victor Crowley standing over a, I guess you would describe it as a nubile young blonde.
That's how you describe it? You are such a writer. For those who are normal, for those who aren't writers and would not describe women as nubile and young blondes, it's a comic. It looks like it's an illustration, and the girl is definitely in stereotypical horror movie fashion. She has a half shirt with her underboob sticking out, and you have Victor over her with the axe, with the hatchet, I should say.
Oh, that's I'm going to go home and I'm probably going to read that tonight. That's,
it was a good one.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that with the Funko Pop figure of Ripley is really cool. So yeah, nice score on the Box of Dread this month.
Yeah, the last couple have been really good.
Yeah, definitely.
And whenever you get like a pop, like even if it's not an exclusive, it just adds so much value to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
For more information on Box of Dread, you can find them on the web at boxofdread.com, on Facebook, Instagram, and also Twitter, Box of Dread. And we have some new things to announce. Drunken Devil has announced the Sinners Social Club, an exclusive membership that promises to elevate the party-going experience for a select group of participants. So they are offering a membership for their future events, which is kind of a good idea.
And one of those events later in the year seems to be exclusive only to the membership members.
Yeah, which is a really cool perk.
Yeah, so Drunken Devil's events in the past, he's been doing horror-themed parties centering on the Drunken Devil character. And they have been successful, and they are sort of mystical characters or horror characters wandering through the crowd, engaging with you during the course of the night. It's much of a bar, disco, club, party vibe to their events. Really fun, and this is going to be an interesting development. I wish them well with this.
Yeah, so, I mean, if you're listening to this and you're interested, you might be wondering, well, how much is it? What do I get? The membership is for only 50 people, and it's $250, and you pay that in 2 installments. And what that gets you is tickets to the next 2 public Drunken Devil events. One of them is going to be in July, and then one of them is going to be during haunt season in October. And in addition to the parties, you get access to private pre-show cocktail hours featuring cabaret performers, small bites, probably hors d'oeuvres, special cocktails, and all tied together with the theme of the main event. And going to what you just said, Russell, there's going to be a private event taking place at a secret location only for those members in December. So that's pretty cool. It looks like it's only open to those who are over 21, and that's probably just because of the bar aspect.
Probably, yeah.
But if you're interested, tickets go on sale on April 30th, and you can find tickets for the membership at thedrunkendevil.com/membership. For more information on general Drunken Devil things and to sign up for their mailing list and get info on upcoming parties, go to thedrunkendevil.com, on Facebook, The Drunken Devil, on Instagram, The Drunken Devil, and on Twitter, DrunkenDevil_CA. Another new show to announce, which is going to be part of the Fringe Festival, is a show from someone we met from doing the Tension Experience, which is Larry/Lawrence Myers. Larry did a show in Fringe last year, and he's doing a new show this year. And I think going through Tension really helped him create something new, just based on that inspiration. And the reason we're announcing it specifically right now is because tickets are going on sale for the main show May 1st for Fringe. But what he's doing is he's having a prelude and a finale that are not part of Fringe that you can do. And those are going to be shorter and smaller, more intimate experiences. So I think that's pretty cool that he's adding a before and after that won't really necessarily affect the show at Fringe. So you can go to the Fringe show and be fine. But if you know Larry and you know what he loves about immersive theater, you're probably going to want to check out the prelude and the finale. The show is called Dark Arts, and you can go to darkartsplay.com starting on May 1st to find tickets for the prelude and the finale.
And as you said, Mike, this is part of the Fringe Festival, and I find it interesting that already we're getting wind of probably multiple shows that will be in Fringe with an immersive element this year. So the fact that he's actually going above and beyond and adding a couple of things in addition to the normal Fringe show, this should be interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing what he's got planned.
Yeah, I'm excited. Just because, we always joke about Larry, and, he's one of those guys that we can joke with. And, just knowing how much he loved going through Tension and all the other immersive experiences, I'm really excited to see what he pulls out.
Mm-hmm. Now, Mike, we were supposed to hear from Larry, but instead he was unable to join us, so he sent a message from Lindsay and Andrew, who are the partners of Klein and St. Jude. They're going to give us some basic information about this show.
Mike, Russell, Hello, my name is Lindsay Klein.
I am Andrew St. Jude. We are the managing partners of LA's premier crisis communications firm, Klein and St. Jude.
And our slogan is We Save People.
We wanted to share news about events we're hosting in June.
But for those of you who don't know about crisis communications, we are a PR firm that helps anyone being unfairly attacked by the media.
People, companies, mom and pop businesses, anyone that's being lied about. A firm like ours.
Sets the record straight and exposes whoever started the lie.
So, spin doctors without the spin.
Exactly. So, we got this idea.
It was your idea.
Not really.
It was. Yes, it was, and it's brilliant.
Okay, well...
She's being modest and brilliant, which is why our clients love her.
You are embarrassing me, so...
Okay, all right. Anyway, we were helping a restaurant that was being destroyed by some fucktard lunatic on Yelp.
We met with the offended party, and it turns out they just wanted to be heard.
And when we reviewed our smaller cases, resolving the crisis...
Often depends on something deeply personal, so we thought, why not offer crisis management service to the public?
Because you are in crisis whether you think you are or not.
There's always one thing on your mind, isn't there? It could be something huge stressing you out.
Something in the back of your mind, taking up emotional space.
How to deal with that annoying neighbor, a family squabble.
Affairs of the heart, an issue with a coworker, anything, and you just
You need that objective voice. Have you ever talked to a stranger in a bar?
just poured your heart out to them, and then they say that one piece of wisdom.
That sets it all back on course.
We are that voice, except we are experts and not some drunken slob.
So, on select dates in June, you can consult with us about your crisis, and we will resolve it.
And we are presenting this consultation in the form, of what do they call it?
Immersive theater.
Immersive theater, right. It is the first of 3 standalone shows for this year's Hollywood Fringe Festival. It is called Dark Arts Prelude.
And your consultation is a prelude to the second piece, which is a traditional proscenium play about what our firm does. How would you describe that show?
As House of Cards meets Veep.
Perfect. So the proscenium show is called Dark Arts.
And after the proscenium show, in the last week of June, you can return to us for a follow-up consultation.
That's an immersive theater piece called Dark Arts Finale. So, it's a traditional proscenium show with immersive bookends. Each one stands alone.
Now, tickets for the proscenium show, you can only purchase those on the Fringe website. Tickets for the immersive shows, however, are only going to be available at www.darkartsplay.com. That's all one word, Dark Arts Play.
So come see us, and we'll resolve your crisis. We are Klein and St. Jude.
And we save people. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Russell.
Thanks, guys. This is going to help a lot of people.
Yeah, it really will. This is a fantastic idea.
So I'll see you later.
Yeah, I'll be over around 9.
Love you.
Love you too.
So like I said, it's darkartsplay.com, and you can get tickets there for the finale and prelude on May 1st. And then on the Fringe site, search for Dark Arts, and you can buy tickets to that regular show on the Fringe site. And we'll, of course, have links to everything in the show notes. Now, for some things happening this weekend and next weekend, we have Urban Death at Zombie Joe's. It's going to be the last weekend this weekend, so make sure you go. And also, Force of Nature Productions' Tales from Tomorrow is going to be, it's their last weekend as well. The following weekend, we have The Nest going on. Unfortunately, it's sold out, but keep an eye out because people have canceled and they have released tickets. Bats Day weekend is going on around Disneyland and at Disneyland. And the start of Speakeasy Society's Johnny Part 3, The Living, which I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm so excited for that show.
All right. Russell,
Yes.
it's time.
Yes, it is.
For that goddamn stupid sound effect.
Come on.
We're good. The Lust Experience. Lust.
Hi there, big boy.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, man.
I'm just having fun now.
I just can't anymore.
Oh, come on. It was fun.
No, I have this, no, I don't have an image, but I'm picturing you, editing that and just playing that big boy part on repeat while you're sitting in your kitchen, listening to it with headphones and, its huge smile on your face. Or maybe you have a doll set up. Like,
Oh.
and it's like, yeah, she's talking to me.
Hey.
Anyways.
Yes, so I couldn't resist. So I enjoyed it.
Whatever.
So Mike, what's going on?
Just don't. Well, a ton has happened since our last podcast. Where we last left off, we talked about Noah getting arrested after the focus group. Well, a couple days after that, we meet someone new named Macy Jones, and she sends an email to all of us. And apparently she is the executive assistant to Sarah Sinclair. And the press release told us that the Sinclairs are overwhelmed by the thought and concern for Noah, and they wanted her to reach out to everyone with an update. And she gave us an update. Noah's fighting this momentary medical setback with his trademark strength and determination, and we wish to thank everyone for their continued support. And we're 100% confident that Noah and the system will be back helping everyone in the very near future. So once I got this email, I sent an email back to her because she was a new character, or because she was a new person, and I wanted to try to get a little bit more info out of her. And I also sent my well wishes to the Sinclairs because, you know, they haven't done anything bad to me. So, and she wrote back with what she does, like her responsibility to Sarah and the Sinclairs and whatnot. But there was something else that she said that freaked me out. And she ended her email with, "I've heard a lot about you, Mr. Fontaine. We all have."
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and scary.
We all being...
Exactly. Who?
So being that there's so many people who think the Sinclair Inc. is sort of a puppet of maybe OSDM.
Right. Or is Noah just bragging that he got me naked in Ascension, and
Right.
Sarah was bragging about how she kicked some dude out, you know? Or is it that, you know?
Maybe.
Who knows?
So, interesting. So, but that's not the last we hear from Macy. That she developed into an interesting person really quickly.
Yeah.
So the next email, which sort of came from Macy, was a mistake, right?
It was.
So Melissa got an email from Macy, except it was not addressed to Melissa. It was addressed to Melinda.
Right.
Similar names. Could be an innocent mistake.
MELI, if you're typing that and
Yeah.
it auto-populates.
Yeah.
That's happened to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've never sent anything quite this blunderous, thank God. So Melissa Guetta. The Melissa email from Macy that was addressed to Melinda actually was from Sarah, and it's this sort of, not a rant, but definitely an angry email. And it says, "First of all, yes, of course I recognize the severity of this situation, but please do not mistake my confidence in my abilities to handle this as indifference. We were already in front of the situation and had completely discredited anything he might say or do." Now, of course, we are assuming that she is referring to Noah.
Right.
And possibly the arrest situation. Furthermore, there was no incident. There were minor reports he reached out to the test group with some incoherent and rambling nonsense, but we had already alienated him from any allies he might have there. Any paranoid mentions of replication went largely unnoticed. If they do begin to look further, we will assault them with misinformation and confusion. I guarantee this is not a problem. My husband's glory days are long gone, and he no longer has the stamina to follow through with anything other than satiating his own warped desires. He will be back in line shortly, and this will be a momentary blip that was immediately course-corrected by me and my team. I implore you for continued patience and understanding. So first of all, the fact that Sarah is imploring Macy for patience, maybe was this originally not intended to go... It went to multiple people. There were multiple names on the email, and which is characters we really haven't heard much from, but it was good to know that the names were included in that email. It seems to be Douglas Marrow, Brian Blattman, Melanie Aberdeen, and Macy Jones is on the email from Sarah. So, but there's a couple of things referenced in there, Mike, really quickly. The fact that she says something, well, he reached out to the focus group. Is she referring to that weird sort of incoherent seemingly inebriated rant that he went on during the focus group. If that's what she's referring to, she is spinning this so hard. So the interesting thing to me is the fact that this is an admission from Sarah that he's out of control.
But you're missing one major part. You didn't read the part that Macy forwarded.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I guess that would be helpful, wouldn't it? The way this began, this was a forwarded email. And to this Melinda, she says, "Great catching up last night. Definitely feeling it this morning. Regarding the situation, in quotes, we were speaking about at dinner. It keeps getting worse. See below. Don't know how she continues to put the spin on this. They honestly have no clue where he is, and I'm okay with that. He's better and safer without them. Call you after work." So she's admitting that Noah is missing at that point, which some people were theorizing, and Sinclair Industries were trying to spin that he was not missing. He was in medical care.
Right. And one thing when you were reading Sarah's part, know what it reminded me of? The emails from Samson to the clockmakers.
I can see that.
Like, everything's cool, everything's fine, like, don't worry, don't kill me. Like,
and wasn't that also when we also saw that side of Michelle, where she was kind of rebellious against Samson?
Uh-huh.
So this has a similar vibe to it.
Yeah. So the next day, after that forwarded email, a couple fun things happened. On Noah's website, a new page appeared entitled Join Us. And it says, "My medical situation in a recent job vacancy," which many believe that was Macy because Melissa outed her on accident.
Which we assume would cost you your job.
Yeah. Don't talk crap about the boss. Recent job vacancy has left me more determined than ever, but it has also made me realize that I need to support myself with powerful, hungry, and motivated people willing to do whatever it takes to get to the next level. I'm back and ready to tear down everything standing in the way of our mutual success going forward, and I have just one question for you. Are you ready to join us as I gear up to come back bigger and better than before? What does it take to be a Noah Sinclair insider? Why don't you tell us? Make some damn noise, shake it up, post a video, disrupt your coworkers' day in a way they will never forget. Profess why you want this out loud with a vengeance. Whatever you do, do it big and do it proud. Ideal candidates will have experience with email etiquette, Microsoft Office, Adobe, and a mastery of the social media arts. And on that webpage is a picture of you and Buzz from the focus group.
Yes, it was the moment when Buzz was convincing me to change my position, or at least renegotiate my position on infidelity. Redefine, I think, might be a better word.
Yeah, it's funny because so this page went up, and immediately people just started making videos, and we have some creative people in our community.
The community is pretty damn impressive, and there's a huge talent pool here. That is clear.
Yeah.
And some really wicked senses of humor.
Oh man, I had an idea for a video that was going to be fantastic, but I couldn't pull it off because I don't have kids, so. Anyways, like Buzz made a video, Addison, Derek, Julie, so many, and then Andrew made an anti-Buzz one, which was great.
Funny.
So yeah, and the people that started making videos started getting phone calls from, I believe, Sarah saying, we notice what you're doing, keep it up, we like it so far. You know, what else can you do? That kind of stuff. Which is
so basically, people were, trying to tear each other down to get this job position. So it was like a dirty political campaign.
Well, I wouldn't say they're tearing each other down because they were just saying why they should be a Noah Sinclair insider.
Okay.
There was no, the Buzz and Andrew thing is, I think it's different because
because they're such good friends.
Yeah, that would be like you and me, like doing something like that, Whereas, like, if you were really into Noah, I would make a video saying, like, don't trust Russell or something. Same thing. Like,
right,
I wouldn't say that attacking because that's out of fun and out of friendship.
Right. Okay. All right. Maybe it's because I'm so sensitive to negative political ads.
You're just sensitive.
Thank you. Yeah.
Delicate flower.
I am not. So that continued for a while, and like I said, I was impressed by some of the creativity. That's for sure. Brianna made one. Which was kind of cool, and a lot of people reacted because she was in the middle of this gigantic chess set. So that was kind of cool, and people reacted to the symbolism of that. And yeah, it was an interesting couple of days there when those videos were being reacted to.
And all during this time, the Lust Facebook is posting YouTube videos of songs that have certain lyrics about love and betrayal. And they're also posting pictures of statues, like famous statues, and quotes from Roman.
Well, there's been a whole wide variety, like philosophical quotes.
Yeah, philosophical
there was a Nietzsche
quotes,
quote, you know, yeah.
But a lot of them have to do with trust. And, you know, there was one song that was, where did you sleep last night? And so, you know, that's like, is this in regards to Noah and Sarah? Is this in regards to Macy? Like, who's posting this and what's the reason?
Yeah, but I will say, killer taste in music.
Don't use killer.
So not in this context?
Not yet.
So, all right, really cool taste in music. Even a Jim Croce song, which, boy, did that bring back memories for me. My older sisters were really into Jim Croce.
And then later that day, Noah, from his spam account, posted on the forums and basically told Sarah that she ruined his life. I mean, he made a Star Wars reference, so that was pretty cool. And which a lot of people take that because he said Admiral Akbar, so all of us nerds were like, it's a trap.
Yes.
So, you know, I think Noah is warning us that Sarah's a trap or something.
It could be very, very likely. And we don't know the game yet, so it's a warning that may pay off.
Yeah. And then the next day, something just out of left field happens to us. We're all concentrating on the Noah, Sarah, Macy debacle, and a few people get phone calls about a new website called iConfidant.net. And there's a website and there's a Facebook. It's run by someone named Stacy, and they want to set you up with your perfect companion. So immediately a lot of people started going back into okay, we were just talking about AI and, you know, putting people's information into something else. Like, what if this is part of that and whatnot? And
which there is a certain aspect of the iConfidant site that you get the information, you get the impression that they're looking for your information if you move forward with them, which is very similar to what we went through last year with Attention Experience. The OSDM has our personal information because of how they gathered it, and we willingly gave it. What better way to get people to willingly give you personal, intimate information than to promise them to improve their life with it?
Right.
So this is either brilliant or insidious, or both.
So on the website, there was an email, and reading people's emails made me realize that I'm doing this whole thing wrong.
How so? What do you mean?
Well, okay, so when people would people posted on the forums like, this is what I wrote and this is the response I got. We always say, like, be yourself.
Yeah.
And I was myself, and
I was too.
I guess I'm boring. So because, you know, when I looked at the website, it's like, we're currently in beta testing, and because of my job, it's like, oh, you're beta testing, you need beta testers. So
Yes.
I was like, I'd be interested in being a beta tester. I do this. I'd like to help. You know, nothing about, you know, I'm looking for a special friend. I'm looking for a person. I want to take you up on your offer. You know, it was just about beta testing. But people were getting so
heartfelt
and creative and
revealing.
Like sharing like really like personal stories with this. And it was like, wow, like I am. No wonder I didn't get selected. Like my email sucks. Like, you know, but you know, like kudos to them for doing that. But yeah, it was, and some people that wrote in with those good stories I was just talking about got emails back saying, we'd like to talk to you tomorrow. You know, let's have a call,
right.
That kind of thing. So I was like, okay, that's cool.
And I was somewhere in between because I wrote, and yes, I was the same thing, Mike. I was myself, and personally, I would never consider you boring, but
give it time.
What I did is I wrote in response to their website, like, okay, this is interesting, but it's not what I'm looking for. But the fact that they stressed the word companion, and they stressed very heavily that it's not a dating service,
mm-hmm.
That's me. I was like, I'm not looking for a dating service, but companion. I have really good friends in my life.
which apparently you don't if you're looking for new ones.
Well, hey,
whatever.
It's I thought their tactic was interesting, and I flat out said, I was like, you are normally someone I would not email, but because of your wording, because of what you're stressing, that's why you're getting this email. And I got the response, not that I was accepted, but I got the response of, oh, good that you noticed that. And yeah, we're not a dating site. There's more to this. And we look forward to getting registered sometime in the future. Mm-hmm. So, and I wrote back again as myself and said, thank you for the consideration. And I just let them know, like, I'm really interested and very open-minded about what they might have to offer. So,
and I just want to clarify something. We're not saying that everybody that emailed them like stories like this are not themselves. Like, don't take it like that we're saying it like that. I'm just saying, like, I guess I don't go above and beyond sometimes when it comes to, because the same thing happened when I emailed Noah. You know, it's like, for more information on upcoming seminars, email us.
Which is what I did as well.
Yeah, I was like, I'd like more information on your upcoming seminars. And then they throw it back in my face, like, your one-line email, blah, blah, blah. And, but yeah, and, you know, other people that email Noah, same thing. They went on this, like, big thing. But, I mean, that's them, and that's awesome. But, you know, like, I guess that's the difference between some people, like, you know, because, like, this really shows you how different people think about things.
Well, if you're looking at this entire universe, I am not going to create a fictionalized character. I'm going to be myself.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that that's what other people are doing, but myself, if I'm told to ask for more information if I'm interested, that's what I did.
Right. Yeah, like, I'm not going to send a story.
I followed the instructions.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not saying if somebody embellished or you know, went into more detail, that's not a bad thing. And especially with the iConfidant site, I think the natural inclination would be like, oh, this is why I'm looking at you. It's like, because I do want a companion. So that's a little more because that's a social vibe.
Yeah.
The Noah Sinclair stuff was a business vibe. And the iConfidant thing is more of a, because they stress companion, and that's where I went where I did in my email of like, look, this is not what I would normally engage in, but your wording is different enough that I'm intrigued. And that's what they responded to immediately. But I did not get a confirmation. And like you said, some people got contacted and asked if they were available for an on-phone consultation of some kind.
Right. Later that day, Leah got a call from Noah saying that he needs to meet her, like, tomorrow. And so there's going to be a meeting with Noah, with Leah. And her description of what happened is insane.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh my God. Like, I could picture it, like, in my mind, like, and I could see it in, like, movie form. And it was so creepy. What happened was she met Noah at a park. Well, she didn't meet him. She went to a park where he told her to go. And I guess while she was waiting for him, a homeless guy came up to her and asked her for change. And the homeless guy was actually Noah. And he was talking about all just crazy kind of conspiracy type things and saying that we're ants to them. It was just weird. And then all of a sudden, everybody that's in the park, like, there's people, like, you know, like, hanging out reading and families or whatever. At one point, they all stop and stare at them, like, all at the same time. So there's, like, robots in the park, apparently. And Noah is walking away from Leah, and apparently they all start chasing him. And a car pulls up, and more people get out, and they chase him as well. And they finally catch him, and they bring him back to the car and put him in the car, and then they leave.
And it's interesting to note that in Leah's description, apparently one of the things that Noah had said was he made a sort of a generic reference, I guess. If my understanding of what Leah said or recounted was, he made a difference about, like, look at all those people, they're just robots.
Right.
Which I would never think robot. I would think robotic in their lives. I would think unengaged. I would think just part of the machine of society. And that's where I would go. And so when I read that description and she described that moment when everyone turned, I was like, wait, actual robots?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. This just took a weird turn. And yeah, and you're right. And you know, you mentioned you could visualize it in your head. You know what I visualized?
What?
the ending of the Invasion of the Body Snatchers remake with Donald Sutherland.
Ah.
That final, like, encounter, which takes place on a really creepy, overcast day in a park.
Mm-hmm.
So that's immediately where I went.
Yeah, there's definitely some correlation between that.
Yeah, and then all of the other talk, like in the last podcast, we were mentioning that there were theories about AI, and there were, all these the C word, clone, has not been used heavily.
That's not the C word I was thinking of, especially in Lust.
So send those emails to Mike at myoutlife.com. Yes, the clone word really hasn't been brought up a lot, but I think some people are theorizing that that's why they want such information, maybe, and then the iConfidant thing sort of adds to that conspiracy theory if you're buying into that this is all one big conspiracy. So then you add to that park sequence, Mike, there's an overall creepiness to this vibe that is actually, for me, really interesting.
So then the people started getting calls from iConfidant, the people that got replies from Stacy for the conference call. So they got calls, and once people started talking about it, first of all, they weren't allowed to talk about it until a certain time. And we know why once people started talking about it. So what happened is they would play a sound to the person on the phone. Then they would be asked 3 quick questions. The interesting thing is the third question, we started seeing a pattern. And the third question being asked were all questions that you would answer for lost password or how to recover an account, like that kind of stuff.
What was your mother's maiden name?
Yeah,
What's your first pet's name?
The street you grew up on.
The school that you went to as a child.
That kind of stuff. So once people started putting those dots together, it was chaos, because it was like, oh crap, like they have this personal information. And then people started thinking, like, what if it's not about like, creating someone, it's about taking your own identity from you in all these other things. And it's just, oh, it's so nuts.
Well, it was really interesting because, they played a sound, and then a couple people were asked, well, if your head hurts for a little while, that's understandable. It will go away.
Or if you feel nauseous.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was it. It was if you feel nauseous. And here was, like, what did you think of that? Because I went to a different place. Most of the people were like, oh my gosh, what did they do? What did they do? What did they do to me? And I immediately went, when the people started connecting the dots of the security questions, I immediately went to, what did they do to your phone? If they're asking for passwords.
I didn't even do it that way. I thought of that as more of regret. Like once you realize what happened, you get sick to your stomach thinking, oh my God, my identity is going to be stolen.
And that's interesting. But no, I thought it was the people were interpreting that the sound did something to them physically.
Right.
So because they were very specific about, are you in a quiet room? Are you sure you can hear, before they played the sound for people? So, and I immediately went to, like, the moment last year when we gave over an unlocked phone. Was this a way of getting information off the phone somehow?
Right. And it's classic misdirection.
Yes, absolutely it is.
We're on to you, OSDM, or whoever you are. Actually, we're not, because chances are we'll get suckered into something sooner or later.
We're guessing about you, whoever you are.
We're thinking that we might be kind of close to a point where we're on to you.
So take that.
Yeah. You don't know my mother's maiden name. Then on that same day, Macy made a phone call to Sage and gave her a Twitter. And the Twitter handle is Sinclair Payback. So that's Macy's Twitter. So now we have a Twitter account for Macy. And later that day, Twitter is usually connected to Periscope. So if you have a Twitter account, your Periscope name is going to be the same thing. So then we realized that, okay, there's a Periscope with that same name. Later that day, Macy Periscopes a drop. Just like the old Tension days, there's an envelope that says FU, and she drops it off somewhere off Hollywood Boulevard. Jared went and was the one who found it. And what it is a copy of an email sent from Noah to Timothy Granick. But it's not Noah, it's the Noah email address. It's really from Sarah. And that email tells us a few things, like Sarah's probably cheating on Noah with Timothy. And it's basically just kind of tearing Noah down. She says things like her dog was off his leash and that she didn't know how it's possible, but she thinks that he hates himself more than she hates him. And she said another thing that was really interesting. We all know we can't touch Daddy's little boy, but Noah Sinclair is nearly broken all over again. So Daddy's little boy, is Noah the son of someone in power over this? Like, is Noah's father someone in, we keep going back to OSDM, but like an organization like OSDM, or, like there's so many questions from this email.
Right. And, getting this email fairly quickly after the drop, I think a lot of people immediately started hearkening back to the encounter with Sarah at the focus group when she insulted Noah in front of the focus group. This has that vibe, except this is more vicious than that because it's obviously private. So it's going to be a little less guarded, I guess. And
another interesting thing is she tells Timothy to spin this to your superiors in a way that shows I'm on top of it and in control as always. So does she answer to Timothy, who answers to an even higher power? This could go so many different ways.
It's very corporate feeling at this point.
Yeah. But she gives him a reason to spin it in her way.
Yes.
Because she says, if you do a good job, she'll wear the red pair tomorrow. But if he does a great job, she won't wear any at all.
Lust. I don't do that as well as you, do I?
That could be said for a lot of things.
Oh.
Lust. So that's why we think Sarah is having some sort of affair with Timothy. But there is definitely some sort of corporate ladder or organizational ladder here that we don't have answers to just yet.
And also, I want to point to something nice about the community over this that happened. Jared had horrible phone service.
Oh, that's kind of an understatement.
Dude, what carrier do you have if you hear this? So Kristen was also on the way down there as well, and they ended up, after Jared tried to broadcast on Periscope and just could not, and he obviously saw enough of the feedback that he realized he couldn't do the Periscope effectively. Kristen also showed up in the same area. They met, and then they joined together and went somewhere, and Kristen actually broadcast as Jared presented the email and read it, and it was just it was one of those moments where the teamwork helped the entire community. It was pretty cool.
Definitely.
Thanks, guys.
And there's one thing that on that email that we haven't said yet, and that's the handwritten note from Macy on it. She wrote, 3 years, 2 weeks, 4 days, standing by your side, and you threaten my family? F you, XO Macy. So this is definitely Macy getting payback, like her Twitter handle.
Yeah, exactly. And it makes you wonder what was said to Macy specifically.
Oh yeah, was it just a, hey, don't come into work today, clear out your desk, or was it,
Well, she's mentioned threatened my family.
Right.
So, and also the thing that I responded to about that, Mike, was 3 years. So Sinclair Inc., how long has this been around? How long has this been developing? How long? And if it has been developing for that long, what about funding and backing? Is this OSDM again? I keep going back to that now because, they kept stressing they were the puppet masters to some degree. Mm-hmm. So every time I see something new, I'm looking, okay, puppet?
Yeah.
So the fact that she mentioned that she had been involved for that long a time indicates to me that whatever the system is, whatever Sinclair Industries is up to, it's been in the works for a long time.
Yeah, and she definitely knows some things. So yeah. I'm excited to see her get revenge and on this because
Or at least
she's-
become a really cool whistleblower.
Right. Whoa,
Minimum.
wait a minute. Here's the thing. If we're going into this like cloning type thing, if we could get a clone of her,
Ooh.
that way, oh my God, that way she could spread the word. Like, oh my God, what? Oh, dude. Oh my God. Think about that. Like, you have a whistleblower that is a whistleblower on a company that it's possibly cloning people or putting AI into things. What if she took her what she knows and puts it into all of these different things? So that way, instead of one person spreading the word about what's really going on, you have 10 or 50 on top of like who she reaches out to in the community.
Sounds interesting.
Oh, that would be so cool.
She's got years of information, apparently.
Exactly.
So I have a feeling if they threatened her family and, just because of the mistake that she made of sending the wrong forwarded email to the wrong place, if they feel she is such a threat, it will be interesting to see what she does with 3 years plus worth of information. Like, this is one of the more interesting developments, I think, so far.
Yeah. Because this goes back to, tension days when we found out about like the clockmakers and even more people that we didn't know about yet.
Right.
So Macy, bring it. Let us know.
Yeah, I want history.
And herstory.
And herstory.
The next day, in a typical corporate fashion, a press release went out about Macy, and it was from Sinclair Industries saying that an ex-employee is trying to smear the Sinclairs. And the employee was dismissed after it was discovered that she had been engaging in embezzlement of funds from Noah Sinclair, Inc. Upon discovery of these activities, the employee was immediately terminated, and state and federal law enforcement were notified. Following her termination, the employee manufactured additional fictional communication with the sole intent of damaging the reputation of Sinclair Industries senior management. The former employee has been repeatedly requested to cease all activity and to turn herself into law enforcement. Until the matter is resolved, the public is advised to ignore all communication activity regarding Sinclair Industries except those generated directly by and from its senior management, legal counsel, or public relations agent. So Macy knows some stuff, and they're freaking out.
Yeah, that's obvious. And, something also that I want to point to, we had mentioned that there were updates to the Lust Experience Facebook page.
Mm-hmm.
They usually coincide with something. This, to me, was one of the more interesting ones. Around the same time that was going on, one of the quotes that got posted on Facebook was, "All the old knives that have rusted in my back, I drive in yours." Which is, I'm going to mispronounce this, Phaedrus quote.
Sure.
And it was another statue photo. So here's the thing. Who's updating those quotes? Because that could be from either side.
Exactly.
So, but the fact that and that also indicates to the revenge theory of, like, the wounds are deep, they're long, there's a lot of history, there's a lot of story to unfold here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is just the beginning. And one thing that we didn't mention yet about this press release is who it was written by. We mentioned Larry earlier about his play at Fringe. This was written by Larry. And so that instantly has everyone all sussed out on Larry because it's
Is he a plant?
Yeah, exactly. Is he part of Sinclair? And the funny thing is it's signed by the law firm that's in his play that we just mentioned.
So it's a fictional law firm in a work of fiction.
Right. But everything aside, Larry came on in Periscope at 11 from his private account and told us everything's fine. And it was just, he's not a plant, which is what all plants say. But yeah, he explained it. I'm going to side with Larry on this one. And just because I know things like this can happen.
He made it sound as if he got contacted of like, look, isn't this what you do? Don't you help spin stuff?
Oh yeah, and he said that on the forums.
Yeah, and so he came clean and he said, like, look, and I was requested, and he said that this is not a nefarious plan of any kind, that he agreed to do this release as a one-off, so to speak, for the Sinclair brand, which I think is interesting, and it sounds like they may owe Larry a favor now.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to see if that plays out in any way. I gotta say, if they had approached me the same way, I think I would have done the same thing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that just reminds me of when I got contacted by Alistair Gordon last year, when I got asked to write something, and then it ended up in a brochure from that 3 put out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's like kind of like the same thing. And the same kind of thing happened. People thought like, oh, wait, Mike never did that, or he never said that, and they're just using his name. But, you know, and then I was like, no, I got asked to write this. This is me. Like, everything's fine. Like, I'm not part of it, you know, so I understand his struggle. On the last Lust podcast, we talked about a Facebook update that had what seemed to be dates. One of the dates was 4/18, which coincided with an Orange County meetup that Taylor was putting together. So on 4/17, Lust posted a reminder about 4/18 and posts a zip code that happens to be the same zip code of the city where they were meeting, which is in Santa Ana. And then Sarah starts reaching out to people about the open position and the people that made those videos. So the next day, 4/18, Macy calls Melissa, and she accused Melissa of being ruthless for posting the email, but she said she really just needs a friend right now. So she reached out to Melissa, and apparently Macy now has no job and no family, but on the flip side, feels liberated by not being part of Sinclair Inc. anymore, and said that Sarah is a monster, Noah is a narcissist, and has a huge ego, but Macy feels that Noah deep down is a nice guy.
And there was some personal information shared between the two of them in that phone call. So I find it interesting that Macy is trying to befriend Melissa when Melissa was the leak. But also, I think if you're reaching out into the community, I think it makes sense that Macy would reach toward Melissa because it's the one contact. Even if Melissa did something which might have damaged Macy, it is a connection.
Right.
Unpleasant it may be, but it is a connection. So I find it interesting that, you know, apparently in that phone call, Melissa revealed later on the forums that Macy admitted that she had an ex, and she told Melissa the reason for the breakup. And I find that very intriguing that personal connection was made.
Yeah. Because, yeah, exactly. Melissa can be Macy's voice to the community.
Absolutely, she could be. And Macy needs a friend, apparently.
Mm-hmm. And so later that night was the Orange County meetup. And Noah and Sarah crash it.
Which was fascinating.
Oh, definitely. We were lucky enough to have a few people there, Periscope. So like Candace, Kim, thank you for doing that. So we could be there with you. But watching Sarah and Noah together was it just seems so off, man. Like it just like, you know, they tried so hard to make it seem like they're in love and everything's fine, and you could just tell that deep down it's not there.
Well, you know that I'm not a big fan of the Sinclairs.
Yeah.
Even though I will say in person, Sarah impressed me. I will say that. I think she is, you know, a very attractive, strong woman, and you know the way she handled the focus group impressed me. But here's the thing: is you say it was off, it just wasn't there. Have you ever known a couple that you just look at them and you go, "Oh my God, they've been married for 20 years, but oh my God, I don't see why.
Yeah.
I don't see a spark. They have no common interests. How does that relationship work?"
It's purely a business thing.
That's kind of how this felt to me through Periscope.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't there. I didn't see in person, physical contact reads differently than it does on a screen. So I don't know. But that's kind of what I felt was like this is a couple that they keep claiming that they are a couple. They keep stressing that, and yet there didn't seem to be a spark.
Right, and seeing the posts that Noah made on the forums and seeing the leaked emails from Sarah, it makes me wonder if Sarah was using the focus group, because the questions she asked the focus group are basically things that she could convince Noah of. So what if she's using that information to convince Noah that they're a perfectly in love couple?
That's interesting. So rather than my theory about the focus group was they were looking for master manipulators among us, mm-hmm. she could be borrowing the manipulative tools that we showed her.
Yeah. Like learning from the real world, because maybe she's been in this like corporate environment for too long and she needs an outside perspective.
And I have worked with people in the corporate world where you sometimes look at them like why did you think that was okay, or why did you make that decision? And you realize that it's because business is in place in front of everything else, including human decency.
Yep.
So that's intriguing. That's intriguing. So they did crash this scene, and Sarah tried to very awkwardly tell a joke, which she had to read off note cards, and then the joke fell flat, and she kept getting distracted, so she decided not to tell the joke. And then Noah came in slightly later, it seemed, and they basically used it as a public service announcement opportunity.
Yeah.
And, you know, Sarah said, I really appreciate supporters. I really appreciate some of you being fans of Noah. And I want you to know that Sinclair Industries is back on track. And she mentioned the upcoming May month, because in May, supposedly there is a seminar or some sort of event.
And she said it's free and you're all invited.
She said, I just want to make it clear that, you know, everyone's invited. And she said the first one's free.
Okay. Typical.
Yeah, she said the first one's free. So, which is also what drug dealers say.
But that's also another question. Is you all the people that were there?
Just the people
or
there?
You all as in the community and everyone that was watching?
Yeah, that's a good question. We don't know. But the fact that they came in and they wanted to put on this good face, and, you know, people noted that Noah seemed to only be drinking water, and he's been accused of being inebriated in a couple of other meetings. So they made an effort in good faith, I think, to put a good face on the Noah Sinclair brand.
Speaking of face, this is a crazy thing that I was thinking about just because I do things like this. He was wearing glasses, and the type of glasses he was wearing look extremely similar to the glasses that have a hidden camera in them. So I'm wondering if those glasses somehow, like for some reason, he was recording everything.
Interesting.
And okay, so here's the other crazy thing and this is where I'm going. If Sarah is convincing him, maybe he needs to record his memories and record things that happened in case his memory gets erased, so he can see what happened.
So that theory kind of buys into the messing with the brain somehow.
Right. I mean, messing with the brain is the same. That can be taken as well as convincing someone, you know, like the things from the focus group. Like, we're a great couple, Noah. We're great. That's messing with someone's brain. So what if he's recording all of these things as memories to see what really happened, so that when he's at a weird place, he can go back and be like, that's what she's doing. This is not real. This is not like, you know, what it's supposed to be. I am not in love with her, or I am in love with her.
That paints him as this really vulnerable.
Well, that's how Sarah makes him out to be in the email. So it would make sense. But if you think you're being messed with, wouldn't you want to start doing things like that to keep track of it?
Yeah, true. Very true. God, you just made me feel sympathetic toward Noah Sinclair.
You're welcome.
This is why I love having these conversations with you, is because you always do something weird and twisty to my brain. But no, that would really paint him as a... I was about to use the word pathetic, but that's not pathetic as a judgment or a criticism.
Right.
Just pathetic as a like, oh wow, what a horrible place to end up.
Yeah.
Yeesh. Interesting.
Yeah.
So near the end of that, it was a fairly short visit, and they basically, Sarah kind of parts ways, and I guess Noah runs to the restroom, which we learn a little bit later about something that happened there. But
the fun don't stop there, because apparently when we saw this on Periscope, thanks to Kim, and what we saw was Sarah take Taylor outside and take pictures of him from all angles. And my first thought was, oh my God, they're using this as a body scan.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and that goes back into the theory of, AI and creating clones and things like that. So it was like, it makes sense because earlier in the night, Sarah was asking Taylor about his degree because he has a PhD and,
Correct.
works with hearts and stuff. And it would make sense to want to clone someone that has that kind of intelligence.
Yeah.
Especially stuff to do with hearts, because supposedly hearts are going to get broken. So what better clone to have than to someone that can fix hearts?
He would be an obvious target.
Yeah.
And it was interesting that she did that, and that was sort of the end of Sarah for that evening. She walked away from him and left the group. Now, during the Periscope, something interesting happened. Macy showed up as tuning into the Periscope and was commenting that people should stop Sarah from taking those pictures.
Right.
Which completely buys into what you were just saying, is like there was an ulterior motive to having those pictures taken.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, hey, anyone that's a whistleblower, you can't just feed us tidbits of information like that and expect us to react, because
To know what to do with them.
Yeah, like, why stop her? Tell us why. Don't just say, someone stop her on a Periscope. We have no context. Like, and plus it's a Periscope. There's one person there watching the screen, and Kim isn't going to interfere with this, and so it's like everybody else there was trying to be present, so they're not going to be watching a Periscope because they're seeing everything live right there. So, Macy, if you hear this, please give us reasons next time and tell more people to stop her. And Taylor wasn't the only one that got taken away.
Right.
Apparently Tom got brought into the bathroom with Noah, and Noah gave him a burner phone and told him to, always answer it and be ready. And so that means there's a burner phone out there now.
Which was really odd, because apparently this turned into a conversation which will continue a little bit in a few minutes, but Tom later admitted that he had been given the instructions by Noah of always be available with this phone, and he was also given the instruction to keep it secret and get it out of the building without anyone else knowing that Noah had given him anything. Which, on the Periscope, where Taylor is being led out, I believe it's that Periscope, you actually catch a glimpse of Tom talking to sort of a security guy, which apparently what happened is when they left the restroom, the security guy noticed that Noah had been talking to Tom apparently and stopped Tom. The security guy stopped Tom and said, "Did he give you anything? What happened in there?" And Tom played innocent. So Tom did as Noah requested at that point, kept the burner phone secret.
Right, and this leads into another weird in-game, out-of-game type conversation, because if an in-game character tells you to keep it a secret, should you? And,
yeah, it's a good question.
And that's what he was doing, but then later on the Lust Facebook, he got called out and was like, one of you's hiding information. But it's like, you told me to keep it secret in-game, so it's like, it's this weird, like, you can't have it both ways.
Yeah, they haven't quite finessed that process out, I don't think.
So after that, he went to the forums and explained what happened, and I guess that appeased everyone, because then I think it got deleted off of Facebook at that point.
We should also mention that his version of what happened in the restroom is that Noah actually offered him a drink.
Right.
Which flies in the face of Noah drinking water in public when Sarah and he showed up at that Orange County meeting that Taylor set up.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have a situation where Noah is in the bathroom trying to break away from Sarah and get out from under her watchful eye, apparently, and is doing some sort of weird reach out to the community through Tom and this burner phone.
Right. And who knows what where that would lead to.
Right.
Would he call Tom for support? Like, is Tom, would he be a sponsor? I want a drink, and he says, no, don't.
Well, Tom said that he got a couple of phone calls fairly quickly, and basically Noah saying, good, you must always answer quickly. Why is it taking you so long? So obviously I think trying to set up that Tom needed to pay attention.
Yeah. And apparently he made Noah upset, because the next day Leah got a package at work. And in that package was another burner phone. And then she got an email that basically explained the situation with Tom didn't work out, and to give that phone to someone that she trusts. We had an unofficial vote on the forums, and it went to Megan. So she handed off the phone to Megan later that night, and apparently Noah emailed Tom because Tom came forward after all this happened, because we were like, what is going on? And Noah basically told him he waited too long, and he hoarded information, and to throw that phone in the trash.
Which is really, really weird, because he had been told in game not to give the information. So this was a very weird situation.
Yeah.
And it sounds, to some degree, did Tom get the short end of the stick here because he followed instructions? It's very, very odd. And the forum actually had some of this conversation, and offline some of this conversation was having.
Right. And this goes back to everything that we were talking about earlier about, we do this as ourselves.
Yeah.
Knowing Tom and knowing, his personality and the way he is, he totally did this as himself. He didn't do a character like, Tom is Tom, and he's going to act as Tom. And
in his description, he turned down the drink from Noah because that's Tom. He wouldn't drink with someone who might be having problems with alcohol. That's Tom. Yeah, so this was an odd development. So Leah wound up with a burner phone.
Yeah, and then the community voted, and she gave that one to Megan later that day. Then the next day, we get an email from Noah Sinclair Inc., and in that email was a link to another new page on Noah's site, which is noahsinclair.com/truth.html. And on that page are 3 videos. We were previously mentioning the videos that people were making to be a Noah Sinclair insider. And there were 3 videos. One of them was from Julie, one of them was from Buzz, and one of them was a combination between Nicole and Taylor. And in these videos, these were new videos than the original one sent, but each of these videos was very pro Noah, and it was very press release-ish, as it, like, to copy Sarah's like smear campaign kind of thing. Like, don't believe the hype. And then there were points in each video where they shamed Tom, it felt like.
Yeah, they pointed to somebody who tried to discredit Noah Sinclair at this meeting, which they voluntarily went to and wanted to engage their public that was interested in Sinclair Industries. They referenced that this event, which should have been great and fun and social and casual, was tainted by someone trying to compromise Noah Sinclair, which is apparently Tom.
Right.
It comes off a little strong.
Right, because not only do you have the Facebook post about someone's not sharing information, the email to Leah that said he didn't do it good enough, so I'm giving the phone to you now. Now you have these 3 videos as well, and it just, my first reaction is like, dude, if you think he messed up, leave him alone.
Yeah, I thought this was really... this made me uncomfortable, because I thought they were bullying at this point.
Right.
And that ain't cool. So I'm sorry if it's an ARG or not. It ain't cool.
So also in that email, besides the link to this new webpage, there was a new Twitter account as well, and it said that the Sinclairs will address the public tonight at 8:30. And the Twitter handle is Sinclair Inc., except the L in Sinclair is a capital I. So if you're looking for this Twitter account, it's Sin Air Inc. Because Sinclair Inc. was actually already taken by someone, back in the day. So, but I mean, this works. If you look at it, it looks like it says Sinclair Inc. But if you're searching for it, it's Sin Air. But we'll have a link to this in the show notes as well. Like we said before, Twitter is usually connected to Periscope, so we found the Periscope as well. And later that night, we see them Periscope from their quote-unquote happy home.
How do you feel that went?
Dude, I have no idea. Because it started off as like a, hey, we're cool, everyone. And then Noah goes on this rant that kind of doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, first of all, the tension between them was so awkward.
Yeah.
It felt very awkward. It did not feel like a loving couple to me personally. And also Noah was very distracted, and at one point Sarah asked him to get off the phone. And also Noah later admitted that he did something kind of juvenile.
That's pretty funny, but I'm a juvenile, so.
So, yeah, this is right up your alley, isn't it? Basically making, seemingly is distracted and makes, points over to something off screen and says, oh, what's happening over there? Where? Under there? And Sarah goes, underwear. So Noah later posted there's I made her say underwear.
But it makes me wonder if that's him knowing about the email to Tim.
That might be. It might be a reference to the red pair.
Right.
So maybe Noah is very, very
Wait a
aware.
minute. Red pair, red room. Oh. What kind of secrets do you share in the red pair?
Oh, interesting. So I didn't even make that connection. Wow. Red pair, underwear. Wow. Okay. So, but yeah, they are basically repeat some of what was said the night before, that Sinclair Industries is back on track. Their seminars coming in May, all of that. But at the end, Noah sort of grabbed the phone that was being used to Periscope and does go on a bit of a rant of and it's sort of a, what I call testosterone cowboy vibe. Mm-hmm. I'm the alpha male, I'm the one in charge, I'm in control. If you want to take life, by the horns, this is what you need to do. Join us. And Sarah actually pulled the phone away from him to sort of end it because it was not fitting the vibe of the first half of the Periscope. Obviously, I think Sarah wanted it to be a calm, cool, collected, look at us in our happy home. And they did, by the way, reference the son, Tim.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Which we've heard about, but have never seen evidence of. And did you notice that there was no evidence of a son in the Periscope?
Right.
Supposedly this was their home, but they kept it a very, very tight, closed-off shot.
But, I mean, the son's name is Tim. She might be having an affair with a Tim. Is Tim not Noah's?
Oh, no. I can't. No. I just, ooh, wow. I don't know.
Mm. Oh, man, I want to say something about the Get Down Season 2, but if you watch it, the second part, you'll understand. But, man, that could be something nuts.
Well, it is interesting that we've had a couple references to their son, and there's no evidence this child exists.
Right.
And their home is that sterile vibe to it, at least what we saw in this Periscope. So, the Periscope for me just seems so awkward more than anything else. Just their vibe was not that of a loving couple. And I know it was supposed to be somewhat damage control and spin of, see, we are back on track.
Mm-hmm.
And, even his rant at the end seemed a little over the top.
Yeah, and earlier that night, Macy called Melissa again, and she also called Tom. She wanted to make amends with Melissa, and she did mention Tom in that exchange, and we were just talking about Tom, but she said that Tom was getting attacked recently, and they've been treating him really poorly, and Sarah is never going to stop and leave a trail of bodies in her way. And she said that Noah is not a lost cause, but calls Sarah a puppet and too far gone. She said something interesting in that value the craftsmanship of things of value the people too. She just said that they'll talk again. But it's really interesting because, we were just talking about Macy and what she knows, but man, she's like a data mine, waiting to explode. And I can't wait.
Yeah, I'd like to shake Macy's hand someday.
For being a snitch?
No, just the whole, she's obviously dealing with a lot of crap, and, she obviously got the short end of the stick by being fired for a mishap. So, but my sympathy goes out to her.
Yeah. We talked about iConfidant earlier, and that some people had phone calls with them, and some people got accepted into the beta test and whatnot. A lot of us got an email the following day saying congratulations, we're accepted, and we had to do a few things. We had to send them a picture with something that we love, send them our phone number, and some interesting things.
There were two questions that we had to answer. One of them was, think of the saddest moment of your life, and what 3 words come to mind?
Yeah, and then name one word that would describe your relationship with your mother, which is just odd. Like, I don't want to become friends with someone based on those questions.
Yeah, I find it very odd as well, and I don't understand the mother question in particular, but the photo of things that you love, things that you love. And I know people went to the forums and said, it's like, it's hard to do that because, everything from my family members are in different states and I love them. And like all of these other things came out, like, what if what if they're not here? What if I can't do it? And some people said, well, can I take a picture with something, a picture of? And actually, I think anything would be acceptable, but I'm sure they're getting pictures of people with photos of what they love.
Right. I know
sense.
like someone, like I think Dan posted a picture of him and bacon,
yeah.
Stuff like that. But
Dan is a good man.
Yeah. But the one thing that stuck out to me in this email was Stacy sounds like her life is horrible, because I took her example as her questionnaire.
I did notice that the examples they give are pretty dark.
Yeah.
Because what in the email they give you an example like change the subject of this email with your first name last, your last name first name last, and she actually writes her name that way.
Right.
And then for
the saddest moment of your life,
yeah.
She put abandoned, isolated, cold. The relationship with her mother, empty, and then she has a picture of her dog with her.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, empty relationship and abandoned, isolated, and cold. Like,
I thought it was odd that they gave you such almost negative examples.
Right.
And even if your response is, well, I mean, your response is to what is the saddest moment of your life, I think that's leaning toward negative.
Oh, it totally is.
So in the relationship with your mother, completely depends from person to person whether that's going to be positive or negative.
Right. But I mean, this shows me insight as to why she would want to create a site to find friends.
Yes. I think that is quite possible.
Mm-hmm. Russell, going back to me being me and whatnot, I wrote back and I did answer the questions and put a picture, but I wrote back and was like, I'm really not looking for a companion. Like, I have a great group of friends and I don't know if there's a way you can find me a better one,
It's interesting that you say that, because my original response, when she said, well, we're interested in you registering you in the future, my response was, hey, this might be more than you need right now, but I'm happy because you say you're not a dating site. And I said, look, romantic entanglements is the way I put it. It's like, I've reached an age where that's not what I'm looking for. And I also said I wouldn't turn it down. But I also said, like the companionship, the friendship, I have good friends.
Right.
And if you have a system which there might be someone out there that is another friend for me to appreciate, like that's sort of like, yeah, okay, great. Let's fine. Let's try this.
Right. Well, what I said also was, I understand that you're a startup and I want to help, and I know this is the only way I can help. So here's everything, but I don't think you'll be able to find me like that perfect match.
Oh.
So I want to help, but
I'm just curious as to what they would find for me.
Right. It's going to be like me or something.
Well, it is like, as you just said, yeah, I've got some really great friends, man.
Yeah.
So, I'm curious as to what they might offer. And here's the, me, it's about the exploration of the emotional and the psychological. What would I learn from what they bring to the table?
Yeah.
About myself? I will say this, I was not accepted, Mike, at the beginning when some people were and were asked about the phone calls. But at the exact hour that those were going out, I was in a work meeting and I got a phone call from an unidentified number. And I wonder if it was them. But I wasn't expecting one because I hadn't received an email saying I was accepted. I was saying that I might be registered in the future. So it'll be interesting to see what they respond, if they respond to what I submitted. And my picture, I I took a picture of myself with pictures of what was important to me.
Right.
And a couple of objects and things that I have around my home that are important to me. Now, there was one interesting little glitch in all of this. Morgan, who you and I both know, Mike, had gotten one of those original phone calls, and yet apparently was not part of this group that got the email. So I believe he reached out actually and said, hey, am I still accepted? And he got a personal response saying that there was someone named Kristen who had compiled the list, and maybe Kristen had made a mistake, and that it would be rectified, and he was added to the list. And he sounded surprised at how quickly that happened. And then apparently he got a phone call from Kristen. And Kristen apologized, but here's the interesting thing. Through some banter back and forth, Kristen apparently offered up the chance to meet and have some coffee. So it's interesting that Morgan...
It's that accent, man.
Yeah, probably. It's the accent. It's interesting that Morgan, who is one of those original people that I personally think they see potential in him of some kind. I think that's why he would have gotten that invitation.
Because of the accent.
Because of the accent. It's all about the accent. They're going to surreptitiously record the accent so they get it right in his clone. Maybe I'm crossing streams there.
No, it's fine. It's the same universe.
So, but hey, it's more power to him for getting that kind of customer service. So it'll be interesting to see if that meeting does take place.
Yeah, it will be interesting because I know there's other people that were told they would get meetings and nothing's happened.
Interesting. So, Morgan, wish you well on that. And hopefully Kristen is very nice and never leaves you off another list again.
You're always on our list, Morgan.
Yes. So, as of this particular moment in time, doesn't that kind of wrap it up?
Yes, it does.
And that is a lot that happened in just a couple of weeks.
It's seriously, like many, many things happening daily. And luckily, there's people are doing an amazing job of recapping it. Sean is doing updates, like bullet pointed updates on the subreddit. Vicky, who's Blondie on the forums, is doing very good in-depth updates on her blog. And we'll have links to all of these in the show notes. Buzz created a forum thread, which is constantly updated with notable threads. And if you're a new person, you should go check that out. But yeah, there's a lot, man. Like to the point where it's hard to keep up.
Oh, it's very hard to keep up, especially for those of us with the 9-to-5 or even longer jobs. It's very hard to keep up. And I think, Mike, for you and me, it's like, I don't think it's ever been our intention to be the go-to guide from moment to moment.
Right.
But I think, you and I, it's like, and we do this off the record as well as on the podcast, the theories are the interesting part.
Yeah. And there really doesn't seem to be a lot right now. And that's where, with tension, that's what was super fun.
Yeah.
We had a new character emerge, and it's like, who is this? Who's he part of? Like Samson, for example. Like, who is he? What's his backstory? But here, we know, we don't know their backstory, but we know where they're from.
They seem to be defined very quickly here,
right?
Which is a very different tactic.
Yeah, we have Noah and Sarah. They're part of Sinclair Industries. We have Macy, who was part of it and fired. We have Stacy, who's from iConfidant. We're starting each character with a backstory already instead of finding it out.
So
it's not
less of a mystery.
Yeah, and just right now, it's like the prologue. Things haven't really started yet. At least in my opinion. We keep seeing the 5/1 date, that's when seminars start, and I think that's when crap is really going to hit the fan. But
quite possibly. But here's the thing: there are people in the community who are Team Noah. The hashtag has come up several times, and are completely into Sinclair Inc. And Julie at one point actually became sort of a spokesperson on that propaganda page that went up for Noah Sinclair. So things like that happen, but for some of us, the system doesn't look that appealing. So I'm wondering what the iConfidant thing will turn into.
Right.
The fact that seems to be a more, or I should say, a less corporate aspect to it is appealing, but it's going to be interesting to see where it leads. Because right now, we're being given all this information, and last year it was puzzles and uncovering things and the mystery.
And that's another thing. Like, this feels it feels pretty defined so far. Like, it feels almost on rails, in my opinion. Whereas with and it's not fair to compare it to Tension.
No, it's not.
But I feel like
it's all we've got to compare it to.
Right. I feel like we have to, because it's the same universe, and this is what we did last year, this is what we're doing this year, and for people that have been around, it does feel different.
Very different.
And it's like I feel like we're not discovering as much. Right,
and unfortunately I think that's led to some of the tension, forgive that, among the community. And the thing with in this episode we touched on how Tom seemed to be ganged up on, and that's not nice. And I am not expecting this to be a completely nice universe. Bad things happened last year in Ascension and during the Tension experience, and I get the inkling bad things will happen this year as well.
Right, and that's the thing, and I do have trust and faith that this will get to some messed up place. But right now, for me, a corporate love story just isn't that interesting.
That's an understatement for me.
Right. Because you live that life.
Yeah, I've worked corporate so long that there is no interest in that for me.
Yeah, and don't take that the wrong way. Like, we're still interested, but we want to see where this goes. But, when you have like a cult that's recruiting people using quotes from Charles Manson and Aleister Crowley and Edgar Allan Poe, and with just the whole cult vibe and like their nefarious ways, I'm sure there's nefarious things happening within Sinclair Inc. We just haven't seen them yet. And
yeah.
I hope it goes to a point like that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this unfolds, and I am really intrigued by the iConfidant aspect of the data mining, the fact that we have had the companion part of that stressed, that combined with the AI conversation from a few weeks ago, combined with the why are they getting pictures of people, why are they gathering all of this personal info, what about the personal info that OSDM already has, how is that going to come into play, are these two companies connected in some way, hidden in the back, that we will someday discover.
Right, and where's Michelle been?
Yes, good question.
I want her to come in and even though I really just for what she did to the Book of Anak. She's not on my I want to be friends with you list, but man, she tears crap down, and I want to see her do that.
Yeah, I want to see Sarah
fight her. Yeah. Cat fight.
I wasn't going there, but damn, now that you bring it up.
Oh my God, the ultimate power struggle.
That would be interesting. It would be fascinating if Sarah and Michelle, and because of the corporate vibe of this, if Sarah and Michelle vie for the same position.
Yeah. Oh, or what if Noah has an affair with Michelle?
Or what if he's been there, done that?
Yeah, that too.
So, I mean, there is intrigue here, definitely. So, but it just feels so radically different, and it doesn't feel like a mystery that's unfolding. It feels like a story that's being told.
Right.
Which is very different than I think many people expected. It's not what I expected.
Yeah, exactly.
So it'll be interesting. And like I said, right now, the iConfidant thing to me is the most intriguing because it's got just a little bit of the threads that intrigue me the most.
Yeah.
So, and I would love for them to, I want to see if they can find what they claim is a perfect companion. I want to know what that looks like.
And I want to know what's up with Otis, man.
Otis is fascinating.
Come on, man. Hope you were an ex-serial killer. I really want that. Just because I want things to be horror all the time, but I know it can't happen, but that's just my wish list, because that would make sense why we're friends.
Why you were immediately liked him.
Yeah.
It's because deep down you knew.
It's I see something in you.
So, oh, dude, if Otis turns out to be your mentor in some way.
Oh, and I get to kill people?
Maybe.
Oh, that would be awesome. In-game, not real life.
Sure, allegedly.
You don't know anything.
All right. Well, Mike, again, the theories are interesting. Wow, it's been a busy couple of weeks.
And if you want to follow along in this crazy journey, you can go to thelustexperience.com, on Facebook, The Lust Experience, on Instagram, The Lust Experience, and on Twitter, Lust_experience. Also check out noahsinclair.com and iconfidant.net. That's everything.
For now, for this moment.
Yeah.
I'm sure something will change the moment we turn off this stuff.
And oh, I almost forgot. Before we go, we have to give a shout out to Brian and Brandon. We met them outside of Zombie Joe's
Yes.
when we went to Tortured Souls.
I remember.
They emailed us and told us about a new escape room that they did called Escapade Rooms, and I think it's in Fullerton, and said it's really good and that we would love it, and it's going to be horror, and they just had a really, really good time with it. So based on their suggestion, we're going to hopefully check it out in the next couple weeks. So thank you guys so much for that, because we hadn't heard of that one yet.
Yeah, and we always appreciate those recommendations.
Yeah. So thank you. And if you want to reach out to us about crazy theories you have with lust or new escape rooms that you've done that we haven't heard of yet, you can email us at mike@myhauntlife.com or russell@myhauntlife.com with 2 S's and 2 L's. You can leave us a voicemail or shoot us a text at 515-HAUNT-LA. And you can find us on all the websites and all the internets at myhauntlife.com, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, My Haunt Life. We're also on YouTube. We have all the podcasts on there and a couple of videos from Scare LA last year. And check out the forums. It's a nice community that's building at myhauntlife.com/forums. And of course, we have the Haunt Calendar, which is turning into an everything calendar,
yes.
An everything immersive. Shout out to Noah Nelson, No Proscenium, and the Everything Immersive Facebook group. But we're putting things like Speakeasy and the Fringe shows that are immersive and stuff like that on there, as well as haunts and other events. So check that out. If you're planning to visit LA soon, check out the Visit LA page, which has a bunch of creepy locations around LA that you'll be into that are not touristy. And yeah, that about wraps everything up. Mm-hmm. With that being said, I'm Mike.
And I'm Russell.
See ya.
They're not allowed to release quite information yet.
Quite information?
Wait, is that what I said?
Yeah. They're not.
I'm brain farting all over the place today.
Yeah, I can smell it.